Chapter 830. Shields fell to the ground one after another, and the chilly arch at the back roared, "Shield wall, spear forest, push forward. Push these eastern barbarians back into the sea, quick." Everyone roared, and spears pierced through the gaps between the shields, piercing into the bodies of the Blackstone Empire soldiers. The shields formed an impenetrable wall, pushing a large group of enemies into the sea. Following this, they moved the shields away and wildly stabbed with their spears. In the blink of an eye, the seawater was dyed red with blood. However, this did not change anything. There were already many Blue Flame Army troops on the two sides of Shotzi Harbor, and the Blackstone Empire's bear banner was raised into the sky. They planned to surround and annihilate the garrison of Shotzi Harbor. 1st and 2nd Battalions, stay behind and hold up the rear. The rest of you, retreat with me. Brothers, it's time for you to die for Great Qin. Elder Captaincy's voice echoed through the air. He mounted his horse and quickly protected the Tranquil Sea Marquis, Yao Yuan, and the people from the Spirit Medicine and Spirit Fire divisions as they retreated. The sounds of fighting, roars, and screams mixed together, and the entire Shotzi Harbor was engulfed in flames. The commoners who were waiting for Yao Yuan's army to return had already fled, but with the invasion of the Blackstone Empire's army, where could they run to? This battle lasted all the way to the dawn of the next day. When the sun shone down on the land again, Shotzi Harbor had already been reduced to ashes. The wreckage of countless warships floated on the sea, and the smell of burnt flesh mixed with the smell of blood, causing people to feel nauseous. In the forest to the south of Shotzi Harbor, a large number of Blue Flame Army and Sea Mountain Army troops had gathered. Although they had gone through a night of naval battle, their warhorses and mounts had not suffered too many losses. At the same time, the dragon riders in the distance had landed to rest, and the dragons were devouring the dead horses. To them, this was a heaven-sent delicacy. Gulp, gulp. A fire dragon bit the horse into two halves. His brown eyes turned and looked at the person beside him. It was Fu Yu, the commander of the Ashen Flame Army. Lord Han Shu. Fu Yu smiled. Han Shu caressed the neck of the dragon he was riding on, his face filled with a lazy smile as he said, "Congratulations to Commander Fu Yu for achieving victory. In just one battle, you have almost completely wiped out the main force of the Qin Empire in Lingkong province. From what I see, the army that Yao Yuan led to escape with and the army of Linghan City would not exceed 50,000 people at most, while we still have a total of 300,000 valiant soldiers." Fu Yu laughed heartily and said, "This is all thanks to the help of the Black Stone Dragon Riders. Otherwise, I'm afraid that we would have lost a few teeth even if we tried to eat Yao Yuan. Speaking of which, this Yao Yuan is one of the white-robed imperial guards conferred by Qin Yin's father. He is indeed not simple. After losing the battle, he was still able to use fire to attack us and cause us to lose tens of thousands of soldiers. When I catch him, if I don't chop off his head and use it as a chamber pot, I won't be able to quench my hatred." Han Shu said, "Let's talk about the chamber pot later. Where does Commander Fu Yu plan to target next?" With a whoosh, Fu Yu unfurled a map of the Shattered Cauldron realm. Furthermore, it was a map made of cloud brocade. It was obvious that it was purchased from the hands of someone from the Empire at a high price. Sometimes, for the sake of money, one would not care about the beliefs of a nation. This was human nature. After thinking for a while, Fu Yu said, "This place is still close to 300 li away from Linghan City. With cavalry, it would take half a day, and infantry at least 2 days to arrive. Now that our military rations have been exhausted, the soldiers are eager for a reward, so I don't plan to attack Linghan City at the first opportunity." "Then which city does Lord Commander plan to attack?" "Here." Fu Yu pressed his index finger on a black dot on the map and said, "Dongtian Prefecture. This prefecture city is less than 100 li away from us. If we march now, we can reach it by nightfall at the latest. The garrison of Dongtian Prefecture will not exceed 5,000. With the help of the dragon riders to open the city gates, we can take down Dongtian Prefecture without wasting a single soldier. This prefecture city has a population of close to 200,000, so it can be used as a gift to the front and middle armies." What does Lord Han Shu think? What do you mean by a gift? Han Shu asked. Beheading, drinking their blood, killing their children, and seizing their wives and daughters. This is the best gift to the soldiers of the empire. You want to massacre the city? Han Shu frowned. Fu Yu smiled faintly. This is a rule of the Blackstone Empire that has existed since ancient times. It cannot be abolished. I know that Lord Han Shu is an expert of the dragon riders and disdains such things, so I'm just informing you. Han Shu couldn't help but sneer. It's fine. I don't want to interfere with the affairs of the empire. If there is a need for the dragon riders to move out, Lord Fu, you can just send a messenger. In that case, I will lead the dragon riders to the surroundings of Dongtian Prefecture and clear away the obstacles. For Lord Commander. Thank you, Lord Han Shu. Fu Yu beamed and turned to the two deputy commanders behind him. Pass down my order. The 150,000 soldiers of the front and middle armies will rest for 2 hours. After eating and drinking their fill, they will march quickly. They must reach Dongtian Prefecture before nightfall. As long as we take down Dongtian Prefecture, they will be able to sleep on warm beds there and hug the women of Shattered Cauldron Realm. Yes, Commander. At dusk, the setting sun shone down on the earth like blood. The flag of the purple Yinhua fluttered in the wind above Dongtian Prefecture. The commoners in the city continued to farm as usual, but they didn't expect that a calamity was descending upon them. They didn't even inform the commoners of the retreat of the garrison army. This was Yao Yuan's order. Once the commoners were informed, it would definitely cause chaos and affect their retreat. As a result, there were only a few old veterans on the walls of Dongtian Prefecture. The oldest among them was already 60 years old. Their hands were trembling when they held onto their spears, let alone fighting in battle. Look, what's that? An old soldier pointed into the distance, and the other soldiers looked over as well. They saw many black figures moving about in the forest at the east of Dongtian County. Not long after, dust and dirt rose into the air and suffused the sky. A group of Darkstone Empire's beast cavalry seemed as if they had come from purgatory, and they were caught off guard. Quick, sound the bell. Yes. But before the bell could resound through the sky, the person ringing the bell had already been pierced through the throat by a sword. In the sky, a huge black figure circled around. The dragon rider on the back of the dragon looked disdainfully at the garrison soldiers on the city walls and said, "If you don't want to die, immediately open the city gates. Otherwise, I'll kill all of you." The group of veterans was so scared that they were dumbfounded, unable to move. What a bunch of trash! The dragon rider roared, and sword light swept across the city walls. In the blink of an eye, dozens of veterans were all turned into corpses. The huge dragon let out a long roar and landed inside the city with the dragon rider, scaring the commoners into retreating. The dragon rider grabbed the reins and shouted, "It's up to you now." The huge dragon raised its neck and accumulated dragon flames. In the next moment, the flames rushed towards the city gates and continued to burn. A large hole was burned through the metal gates, and with a flash of sword light, the entire city gates were split into pieces. Outside the city, the beast riders quickly split into 3 streams of black water. One group entered the city, while the other 2 formed a pincer around the entire Dongtian Prefecture. A chiliarch with a sharp blade in his hand entered the city at the first moment and slashed an old man pushing a wheelbarrow in half. Fresh blood splattered on the cabbages inside the wheelbarrow. It was a tragic sight. The people of Dongtian Prefecture were scared silly. Many people couldn't even remember what the previous battle was like. And now, this massacre had actually happened so suddenly. Hee. A beast rider urged his tiger leopard mount to bite off the head of a commoner man. He then shouted, "Don't swallow it, idiot. Spit it out quickly." The tiger leopard mount roared twice, shook its head, and spat out the head in its mouth. It was covered in blood. The beast rider conveniently picked up the head and tied the hair of the head to the neck of his mount. It swayed like a copper bell. This was a symbol of military merit. In the most primitive way of battle, one head represented 1 military merit. The sounds of killing rose and fell in the city. The entire Dongtian Prefecture had become a living hell. The 4 city gates were all sealed, and they couldn't run away. They could only hide in their homes and wait to be captured and killed one by one. Everyone kept quiet out of fear and watched helplessly as their loved ones were beheaded one by one. On the streets, the heavy cavalry and infantry of the Ashen Flame army entered the city, and the massacre became even more unrestrained. Almost every cavalry had a head hanging on their horse's neck. Some even had more than 10 heads. At the same time, those young women managed to escape this calamity. Their hands were tied, and they were led behind the war horses. There were at least 1, and at most 4 or 5. What awaited them was even more tragic. After the sky turned dark, Fuyu entered the city. He looked at the piles of burning corpses on the streets with a complacent expression on his face. This was because the people of the Ashen Flame army were very happy. This represented the morale of the army, and Fuyu was very happy to see this scene. "Lord Commander." A captaincy walked forward respectfully and said with a smile, "The city lord's residence is already in our hands. That stubborn city guard general has already been killed by this subordinate. Lord, a banquet has already been prepared in the residence. We have left a chef behind. Hee, the culinary skills of the Shattered Cauldron realm are truly not simple. In addition, this subordinate has prepared 10 beautiful women for Lord. One of them is the daughter of the prefectural governor. I hope that Lord Commander will kindly accept them." Fuyu's face turned red when he heard this. "General Lu really understands me. Let's go to the city lord's residence. We won't return until we are drunk. In addition, send people to watch the city gates. The people of the Shattered Cauldron realm are naturally cunning. Don't let them sneak and attack on us." The captaincy had a fawning expression. "Lord Commander, don't worry. Yao Yuan has already been scared out of his wits by us. I dare say that in the entire Qin Empire, not a single army would dare to sneak an attack on our 150,000-strong army. Ha, that's right, that's right. Let's go and see my beauties first." Chapter 8:31. The moonlight was like blood, and the ground was covered in flames. Cries could be heard from within the Dongtian commandery. The cries of women could be heard from within the residences, as well as the wild laughter of soldiers. Massive bonfires were lit on the streets, and cattle and sheep were roasted on the bonfires. The Blue Flame army opened the commandery city's treasury and took out countless amounts of fine wine. As they drank, they hugged the women they had plundered and laughed. The wooden stakes on the side of the road had human heads pierced into them. These heads belonged to the city's defenders. On the other side, there were a few registration offices. The people in charge of the registration recorded the number of heads and buried them. Although the Blackstone Empire's army was barbaric and cruel, they knew that the corpses should be buried as soon as possible. Otherwise, a plague would inevitably spread in their territory. Moreover, according to the Blackstone Empire's rules, for every 3 cities seized, 1 would be slaughtered. Not only would this raise morale, they could also use the other 2 cities to replenish the population of the cities that had been slaughtered. However, the destruction of Dongtian County could no longer be changed. The earth was filled with cries, wails, and pleas for mercy, but nothing could be changed. The moment Yao Yuan decided to retreat to Linghan City, the fate of Dongtian County seemed to have been decided by the heavens. Beneath the eastern wall, a temporary tent flickered with light. Outside the tent, women were tied to trees. Their captors were centurions and chiliarchs, and every officer had at least 3 to 5 women as spoils of war. After enjoying them, they would be rewarded to their subordinates. Above the wall, a few figures stood majestically in the wind, wings of light faintly discernible behind their backs. It was the Battle Angel Corps. Is this a war in the mortal world? Lake was somewhat shocked as he looked at the hellish scene in the city. Dora laughed coldly. "What else do you think a war is like? A young master from a noble family like you has probably never been close to a real war in your life, right?" Terralyn frowned slightly. "Are we just going to watch like this? It's just too cruel. Although it's reasonable to attack a city, such an inhuman atrocity will definitely be punished by the gods." Dora couldn't help but laugh. "Terralyn, you're a god. Why don't you punish them?" Don't forget that the Blackstone Empire is the wealth of the celestial pole continent, as well as the people of the Western Divine Realm. If you dare to recklessly attack them, the ruler and the 2 Lord Seraphim won't let you off. But Terralyn couldn't help but say, Sheen, say something. As battle angels, are we supposed to watch the beasts in front of us so mercilessly? Under the moonlight, Sheen's eyes were closed, and her eyelashes trembled slightly. Even her body was trembling. She was a god, and she could hear the countless blessings. She could hear the screams of all the young girls of the Dongtian Commandery. She could feel the despair and pain. She lowered her head and clenched her fists. 2 streams of tears flowed down her cheeks. She could sense the connection between herself and this continent. She could even feel the pain and torment she was experiencing. Stop, Sheen whispered. What? Dora was stunned. Sheen, what did you say? I said stop. Sheen suddenly raised her voice. This shout was like an oracle, and a wave of power wrapped in flames and the law of light spread out with her as the center. Even Dora, Terralyn, and the others couldn't withstand it and retreated. How could the soldiers of the Blackstone Empire on the ground resist it? The soldiers closest to them, who were planting the heads, were shaken to the point where they bled from all 7 orifices. The tents not far away were all uprooted. All the middle and low-ranking officers looked over, dumbfounded. Boom. It was just a shout, but it actually crushed the houses, collapsed the city walls, and cracked the earth. Terralyn, Dora, Lake, and the others were all dumbfounded. Not long ago, Sheen's cultivation had far surpassed theirs. More than half of the Dongtian Commandery was affected. Almost everyone stopped their evil deeds and looked towards the eastern wall. Sheen, Terralyn muttered, what's wrong with you? Sheen slowly shook her head and said, stop them, yes. The sound of horse hooves shook the road. In the distance, torches lit up. Fu Yu's men had arrived. Fu Yu was among them. When he approached, he was shocked. He had seen these war angels before. Lord Sheen, was it you who made that noise just now? Fu Yu asked respectfully. Yes. Sheen closed her eyes and nodded. Release those women and children immediately. Otherwise, I will kill you immediately. Fu Yu was shocked. He didn't doubt the words of this level 7 golden-winged battle angel. She would indeed do it, and she had the ability to do it. However, Fu Yu's subordinates with lower cultivation were unhappy. They couldn't feel the aura of Sheen's 50th level Grotto Heaven Godhead, nor could they feel the sharpness of the blazing eyes. They could only speak at once. But we risked our lives to take down the city, so why should we let go of the spoils of war? These are our gains. So what if you're angels from the divine realm? Aren't we your people? Aren't you taking our offerings from us? Sheen furrowed her brows, and her eyelashes trembled slightly. Golden flames began to spread from her body, and she was about to lose control of her anger. You have never been my people. Sheen suddenly said, stop your violence immediately, you bunch of bugs. What did you say? A group of soldiers raised their weapons and roared, our leader is also a god. The only difference is that he is a god from the lower realm. What right do you have to humiliate us like this? You dare to call us the Empire's warriors, bugs? Who do you think you are? Wang! Sheen suddenly opened her palm and pointed it at the group of soldiers who were cursing the most fiercely. Shut up. If you don't shut up, you're going to curse. They were quite stubborn. Shut up, Fu Yu hurriedly said. But it was too late. Sheen's palm glowed with light. With a hong sound, a pillar of light bloomed in the crowd. At least 200 soldiers were instantly devoured by the pillar of light. They turned into ashes, and not even their bones were left. Terralyn suddenly stood in front of Sheen, blocking her eyes, and said, Lady Shiyen said to use the eyes of blazing light as little as possible. After all, it will only consume the power of your cultivation. We can deal with this group of ants. But now, the Blue Flame Army didn't dare to say anything. They all felt that this girl looked very weak, but that was not the case. She killed hundreds of people with a wave of her hand. This kind of power was not something a god of Fu Yu's level could do. Dora frowned. Sheen, You killed the people of the Western Divine Realm. I'm afraid the Lord Ruler will be displeased if he hears about it. Is that so? Sheen's lips curled up slightly. Dora, are you going to tell on me? No, why should I? Dora gently opened her hand, and the light of the Fergus spear condensed. She smiled seductively and said, Since you have slaughtered the citizens of the Divine Realm and betrayed the Lord Juggernaut's divine decree, I have no choice but to execute you. The spear stabbed forward silently. It was so fast that even Terralyn and the others couldn't react. The power of the spear was so strong that it even pierced through the wall of space. Dimensional energy crackled. However, Dora's attack didn't successfully pierce through Sheen's neck. It only pierced the air. Dora suddenly pulled back the spear. However, no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't pull it back. Sheen had actually grabbed the spear's head. Dora, you have repeatedly offended your superiors. It's fine to kill you, right? Sheen abruptly exerted her strength and brandished the Dig's spear in her hand. Her blazing eyes instantly opened, and the piercing Dora could only close her eyes. She did not have the courage to meet Sheen's gaze. Bang! Duo LA's body crashed into the city wall along with the Dig spear. Shattered city bricks flew everywhere, and under the endless compression of power, the city bricks were all turned into dust. The group of soldiers was stunned. This was a battle between gods, a realm that mortals could never hope to reach in their entire lives. Sheen squinted her blazing eyes and opened her palm. Golden flames swirled in her palm. Soon, a dazzling ice crystal appeared. It was a celestial dragon crystal. However, it was different from the celestial dragon crystal from before. It was more lethal and destructive. Dora was already injured. If she took another blow from the celestial dragon crystal, she would most likely lose her life. Wait! In the sky, a figure suddenly flashed by and raised his iron fist. Boom! The wall of the plane was shattered, and the cracking power tore apart the aura of the Eyes of Blazing Light's domain, and it couldn't resist it. Oh! Sheen couldn't help but be surprised. There was actually such an expert in this place? It was Han Shu, a sacred martial king with the cultivation of the 57th Grotto Heaven. Han Shu leaped down from the dragon's back lightly. However, the moment he saw the blazing eyes, he felt a chill in his heart. He hurriedly lowered his head and said respectfully, Lord Shin, Lord Dora is a god from the upper realm who came to the mortal world together with you. She is just a little stubborn. I hope Lord Shin won't vent your anger on her. After all, Dora didn't commit any crimes that deserve to be killed. I, Han Shu, beg for mercy on behalf of Lord Dora. Please don't be angry, Lord Shin. Shin slowly closed his eyes and said, Han Shu? Do your words carry enough weight? This should be enough. I can spare Dora's life, but you must stop all the atrocities in Dongtian Prefectural City. Release all the women and children and stop the killing. Do you understand? Yes, I'll do it right away. Han Shu's face was ashen. He didn't even know why he, a sacred martial king with the 57th Grotto Heaven, would be so respectful to a girl with the 50th Grotto Heaven. Was it just because of the deep respect in his heart? Rustle, rustle. Amidst the rustling sounds, Dora held the Dig spear and crawled out of the hole in the city wall. She was in a sorry state. Luo Fei, who went forward to help her, was flung away by her. With a face full of resentment, she said, Shin, you win. Shin remained silent. She raised her snow-white and flawless face and felt the bright moon in the sky. She quietly waited for the Pale Flame Army to release the captives. She didn't know why she did it, but she knew she had to do it. Chapter 8:32. The night breeze blew across the plains. After the harsh winter, the willow trees outside Heaven Connect City had turned green again. A dense cavalry formation swept across the official road and headed straight for Heaven Connect City. What made Lin Muyu relieved was that the purple Yinghua flower war flag was still flying above Heaven Connect City, and not the red cloud war flag of the Tianji Empire. The city gate opened slowly, and a horse galloped in. It was Wei Chou. Your Highness. Wei Chou's expression did not look good. He squeezed out a smile and said, Your Highness and Princess Xi are finally here. If you didn't come, I would have abandoned the city. Lin Muyu did not say anything. Wei Chao's words were not alarmist, but the situation had indeed developed to this point. Facing the powerful Tianji Empire, it seemed that defending the city was not a rational choice. Stop talking. Enter the city first and gather all the officers above the rank of captaincy to discuss the war. An hour later, King Qin's mansion was in a hubbub. The captaincy, deputy commander, and the executive officers of the various prefectures of Heaven Connect province had almost all arrived. Everyone had their own opinions, and they were arguing non-stop. King Qin's Highness has arrived. The guard announced loudly. Everyone quieted down. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi walked side by side into the meeting hall from the side hall, while Wei Chou, Sidu Sen, Sidu Shui, and Fengxi followed behind. This group of people was the real ruler of Heaven Connect province. Greetings, King Qin. Greetings, Princess Shi. Greetings, Duke Wei. After everyone bowed, Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, "Dispense with the formalities." The two captains held the map together, and their expressions were a little ugly. Obviously, they already knew a lot of things. I just arrived at Heaven Connect City. Tell me, how's the war going? Your Highness, 3 days ago, an army of the Tianji Empire's Liuji army came ashore from Huwei Valley on the east coast. In just 4 hours, they took down Mu County in Qingzhou. In the following 3 days, they split into 2 groups, one from the west, and successively took down Qinglu County, Zhangzhou County, Xiangzhou County, and so on. According to the news we received this morning, they began to attack Dingzhou's Shangyuan County last night. Shangyuan County is less than 200 li away from Tongtian City, which is very close to us. Lin Muyu fell silent. Wei Chou slammed his palm heavily on the table and said angrily, "Are all the garrisons in each region made of mud? A dignified imperial city had been taken down in just 4 hours? In just 3 days, Cheng Province, Xiangzhou Province, Dingzhou Province, and Song Province had been seized. Out of a total of 13 provinces in Heavenspan Province, 4 had been lost in 3 days. They were all a bunch of good-for-nothings. Are the people from Qingzhou and Xiangzhou here?" Among the crowd of officials, 2 people walked out shakily and said in a trembling voice, "The patrol of Qingzhou Province, the patrol of Xiangzhou Province are, take them away." Wei Chao's face was livid. "Your Highness, these incompetent people are not fit to be officials. What do you think?" Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, "Forget it, the Liuji army is too strong, it has nothing to do with them, just forfeit their salary for a year." "Yes, Your Highness." Situsen said, "The urgent matter at noon is what to do now, how to deal with the next attack of the Tianji Empire. Tomorrow night at the latest, they will definitely launch an attack on Heaven Connect City. Once we lose Heaven Connect City, I'm afraid the 6 provinces in the south, Luzhou, Junzhou, and Hengzhou will definitely not be able to defend." Wei Chou was the only one who had confronted the army of the Tianji Empire head-on. He thought for a moment and said, "Their Dragon Rider Regiment's tactics are too powerful, our magic crystal cannons are simply powerless. I am helpless in this regard." Citizen looked at Lin Muyu. Everyone's eyes also fell on him. "Your Highness, please say something," a county hall advisor said carefully. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were like water. She looked at Lin Muyu worriedly. Everyone was helpless against the tactics of the Tianji Empire. Could it be that Lin Muyu had a way? She was really worried that such a huge pressure would completely crush him. After nearly half a minute, the smoke from the incense burner in the hall lingered around Lin Muyu. He finally raised his head and said indifferently, "How many troops are there in Heaven Connect City?" "There are more than 50,000 people in the Longdan army camp, in addition to the 100,000 people that Your Highness has brought. In addition, there are the garrison troops from the various provinces. The total number is about 130,000. Wei Chou said respectfully. "Enough." "What's enough?" Wei Chou was stunned. Lin Muyu glanced at everyone and said, "I've thought about it for a long time. Although the Tianji Empire's Dragon Knights are powerful, their numbers are limited. They can't guarantee that every scattered army has the protection of the Dragon Knights. Moreover, they have conquered 4 provinces in a row, so they will definitely send troops to guard, and they have won all the battles along the way, so they must be very arrogant and domineering. One of the garrison generals was stunned. Your Highness, you want to attack? Yes, turn the tables. If we blindly defend and fight a positional battle with them with the protection of the Dragon Knights, we will lose completely. Instead of that, it is better to hide ourselves. Hide? Citizen was confused. How do we hide? The cavalry will circle around, and when their head enters Tong province, we will hit their tail, and when they turn back to bite, we will hit their waist and attack where there are fewer Dragon Knights. Everyone will carry enough magic crystal crossbows and use them to attack ordinary troops without the protection of the Dragon Knights. We won't be at a disadvantage, right? Wei Chao's eyes lit up. Your Highness's move is brilliant. An old voice came from the crowd. It was the Earl of Dingzhou who had guarded Dingzhou for many generations. He walked forward with the support of his walking stick and said, Your Highness's plan is brilliant, but it is a dangerous move. If the Tianji Empire doesn't split up and they concentrate their forces to attack Tongtian City, then this city that we have managed for many years will probably be destroyed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu said, The Earl of Dingzhou is correct, but if we don't split up and use harassment tactics, Tongtian City will probably fall, and we will also lose a large number of soldiers. The Earl of Dingzhou trembled all over and said, Although the King of Qin is unparalleled in both literature and martial arts, he is taking human lives too lightly. Once Tongtian City falls, how many people will die? Is this what your Highness wants to see? What good idea does the Earl of Dingzhou have? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. A bright light shot out of the Earl of Dingzhou's eyes as he said, Order all the armies in the provinces to gather and raise the royal banners to pretend to be the main force of our army. There is a cliff between Tong Province and Dingzhou called Greedy Wolf Cliff. It is easy to defend and difficult to attack. As long as we hold Greedy Wolf Cliff, we will be able to stop the Tianji Empire's attack. We can hold it for at least 3 to 5 days, and we can use these 3 to 5 days to move the people in Tongtian City. What does your Highness think of my suggestion? Lin Muyu thought for a moment and then raised her head. Very well, then I will appoint the Earl of Dingzhou as the commander of the provincial armies. I will leave the moving of the people in Tongtian City and the blocking battle at Greedy Wolf Cliff to you. The Earl of Dingzhou was overjoyed. He raised his hands and said, I will not disappoint your Highness. Lin Muyu turned and said, All right, everyone go and make arrangements. The Longdan army camp will be split into 10 groups of 10,000 people. Bring enough rations and magic crystal cannons and leave Tongtian City at night. Tomorrow, everyone will start fighting on their own. In half a month, if Tongtian City still stands, we will meet there. If Tongtian City has fallen, we will meet at the Luo River Estuary Fortress. Yes, your Highness. In the gilded corridor, the palace lanterns flickered with a faint light. A row of guards stood motionless like statues. Your Highness. Sidusan rubbed his nose and said, Just now, that old man, the Earl of Dingzhou, was so arrogant and publicly criticized your Highness's strategy. Why didn't your Highness take the opportunity to kill him? I have long said that the Earl of Dingzhou preyed on the people and amassed a lot of wealth in Dingzhou. Yesterday, when he came to Tongtian City, there were 10 chests filled with jewels and gold. It's not that I don't want to, it's that I can't. Lin Muyu explained, the Flowing Spirit Army is coming aggressively, and we are in need of people. Although the Earl of Dingzhou is greedy, he can be considered useful among the officials in Tongtian Province. As long as he can block the main force of the Tianji Empire at Tanlang Cliff, this will be a great service for us. I understand. Lin Muyu turned to look at Sidu Sen and Wei Chou. We set off tonight. You two will each lead an army. Afterwards, you will have to act according to the situation. Remember, you must avoid the main force of the Flowing Spirit Army as much as possible. No matter what method you use, whether it is a diversion or a diversion, our strategic goal is to completely delay the Tianji Empire in Tongtian Province and buy as much time as possible for the defense of the Lingdong Province's borders. Wei Chou was stunned. Your Highness has already determined that we cannot repel the enemy in Tongtian Province? Although she didn't want to admit it, Lin Muyu still nodded and said, "The Flowing Spirit Army is one of the 4 main forces of the Tianji Empire. Moreover, they have Gong Shangming, such a shrewd person, to give them advice and suggestions. It is already impossible for us to end the battle quickly. We can only seek for further strategic development, give them Tong Tian province, and then isolate them." "Yes, I understand." Lin Muyu smiled. "You all have to be careful. Tonight, I will also lead a 10,000-men Longdan army camp to attack. Xiao Shi will be with me." Situ-san smiled. "Princess Shi's ability is enough to lead a 10,000-men team. Your Highness is really biased. He insists on keeping the beautiful princess by his side, while we can only fight with a bunch of uncouth men." Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red. "Generalson, don't talk nonsense." Lin Muyu explained, "It's not completely out of selfishness. I was thinking that the key to turning the situation around is still to kill the Dragon Knights. They also have a limited number of Dragon Knights. If we kill one, there will be one less Dragon Knight. If Xiao Shi is with me, I can attack when they only have 5 or less Dragon Knights. This is my real intention." Wei Chou and Sidu-sen were shocked. A look of admiration appeared on their faces. If someone else said such words, it would be arrogant, but when Lin Muyu said it, it was completely different. The Empire State Building was already collapsing. Under such circumstances, the only person who still had the courage to kill a god-tier Dragon Knight was probably Qin Wang, who was once one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yan. Chapter 8:33. At night, on the vast plain of heaven-reaching city, dust was rising into the sky. Rows of cavalries of the Courage Dragon Battalion disappeared into the night. The army of 100,000 soldiers was divided into 10 groups, and all of their routes avoided the official roads and main roads as much as possible. None of them even wore armor, and only held weapons. In this way, it would not be too strenuous for them to ride on mounts, and it would be easier for them to deal with the Tianji Empire after they went into battle with light armor. At midnight, a group of light cavalry arrived at the border of Dingzhou. Under the moonlight, the person wearing a golden royal cloak was Lin Muyu. He rode on the snow-treading stallion and held the pear-blossom spear in his hand. His body was surrounded by faint wisps of wind element power. This wind element divine power created buoyancy and greatly reduced the pressure on the snow-treading stallion. To his side, Tang Xiaoxi wore armor with a wisp of white fur on the chest and held the national suppressing whip in her hand. "We've arrived at Dingzhou." Lin Muyu looked into the distance. A golden light flashed through his eyes. Looking into the distance, he could see a city shrouded in smoke and clouds. It was Shangyuan County, the capital of Dingzhou. "I didn't think they would still hold out." He sighed. He hated that he couldn't go as reinforcements. His mere 10,000 men were not even enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of the main force of the Flowing Spirit Army. "Your Highness." At his side, Captain C respectfully said, "What do we do now? Quickly reinforce Dingzhou, or?" "No, we're not going to Shangyuan County." Lin Muyu shook his head and said, "Xiangzhou County fell 2 days ago. How many men did the Tianji Empire leave behind?" Tang Xiaoxi blinked and smiled. "Not many. Only 20,000 men are guarding it. However, there are also 5 dragon riders. One of them is a dragon rider. Are we going to take down this force? What is the cultivation of the dragon rider? The book didn't say it in detail. Let's go there and talk." "Yes, all right." Xiangzhou was 300 li away from Dingzhou. If the light cavalry traveled quickly, they would arrive in about a day and night. Tang Xiaoxi said, "There is a very powerful person in the Tianji Empire's army who knows how to buy people's hearts. After each city they capture, they open the warehouses and reduce taxes. They also put up notices to pacify the people. The army and the people are not offended. It is said that from the moment they attacked Mu County, they restrained the soldiers." Lin Muyu remained silent. This was why attacking the city was more important than attacking the heart. Gong Shangming was the real opponent, and he was also destined to be their nemesis. The light cavalry galloped in the forest. Before dawn, they had already galloped 100 miles. Fortunately, The warhorses of the Courage Dragon Battalion were basically tributes from the demon clan. These warhorses from the Forest of Infinity were plump and strong, much stronger than the warhorses of the Central region. Moreover, they also had some demon power in their bodies, so their endurance and physical strength were extraordinary. It was not easy for an ordinary warhorse to gallop 100 miles a day, but this kind of warhorse from the Forest of Infinity could easily gallop 300 miles a day. Rustle, rustle, the sound of the wind rustling the leaves could be heard. Lin Muyu suddenly raised her hand and said softly, "Stop advancing." Everyone signaled to each other. The cavalry quickly stopped in the forest and no longer made any sound. "What's wrong, Your Highness?" a Chiliarch asked respectfully. "Someone is coming. It's a dragon rider." Lin Muyu looked at the sky in the distance and said calmly. Tang Xiaoxi nodded, "A dragon rider with the cultivation of the 17th heavenly passage. According to their classification, he belongs to the Saint Martial ancestor level. He is considered a middle-level dragon rider, right?" "Yes, there is only one person. He should be a scout." Lin Muyu clenched her fist. She was suddenly worried about Wei Chou and City Senator. They were already close to the border of Xiangzhou. To think that there was a scout from the Tianji Empire. This was enough to prove how cautious the strategists behind the Flowing Spirit Army were. She could deal with this dragon rider easily. But if Wei Chou and Situ Sin met him, they would be in danger. "What should we do?" A look of shock flashed past the Kiliarcha's face. He had seen the power of a dragon rider in the Blue Wind Harbor. He was already frightened. "Don't worry. I will deal with him." Lin Muyu calmed the morale of the troops and said softly, "Everyone stay where you are. Do not move without my orders." Tang Xiaoxi smiled, "Be careful." "Don't worry." Lin Muyu did not show off. She held her breath and waited in the forest. Only when the young god-rank dragon rider flew through the sky did she make her move. She opened her palm and a golden light shot into the sky. It was a golden gourd vine. Once the martial soul was activated, the power could not hide. "Pooh!" The dragon rider only had time to shout this sentence before he was unable to move. Both he and his dragon were bound tightly by the gourd vine. Knowing that he had encountered a powerful enemy, he subconsciously let out a roar. Instantly, the azure dragon defense spin blossomed in the sky. It was like an energy whirlpool, roaring endlessly. In the blink of an eye, the gourd vine was torn apart. However, in the instant that the gourd vine was torn apart, the pear blossom spear in Lin Muyu's hand transformed into a snow-white light and pierced downwards. The tip of the spear trembled slightly, and the dragon taming spear technique's most powerful 12th form was activated. 3 spiraling forces exploded from the tip of the spear, heading straight for the dragon defense spin. Pang, pang, pang. 3 flaming lights instantly blossomed in the sky. Lin Muyu's casual attack had already shattered the opponent's dragon defense spin. "You!" The young dragon rider hurriedly stabbed out with his spear, but Lin Muyu's speed was even faster. With a flick of her wrist, the pear blossom spear wrapped around the other party's spear like a swimming dragon. Lin Muyu then forcefully retracted her spear. Spear lock. The dragon rider's reaction was considered fast. He hurriedly let go of his spear, pulled out his sword, and slashed at Lin Muyu. However, what welcomed him was an extremely cold punch. It was like a bright moon falling from the sky, and it landed on his shoulder at an incredible speed. 23 layers of waves violently tore his body apart. The Star Scripture's long river falling moon had actually penetrated the dragon rider's body. Pooh! The force of the punch even penetrated the green dragon's back. With just one punch, both the dragon and the man perished. Bang! A loud sound exploded in the forest, breaking many trees before stopping. Both the man and the dragon were no longer breathing. The cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp who were hidden in the forest were all stunned. They all gathered around to observe the legendary dragon rider up close, even though he was already dead. Lin Muyu quickly landed and picked up the dragon rider's spear and dragon sword. She said, "Who wants it?" Immediately, a few cavalrymen answered together and immediately split up. Once the scout is dead, it will immediately attract attention. Their people will be here in an hour. We have to hurry. Lin Muyu stretched out her hand and pointed to the east. This river is shallow. Warhorses can cross it. We will travel 3 miles through the river before reaching the shore. Why do we have to travel through the river? A soldier asked. Captain C smiled. Because the river can cover our horse tracks. Your Highness is the commander. You just need to follow orders and don't question them. Yes, Your Highness is wise. Lin Muyu, however, smiled bitterly at Tang Xiaoxi. She was afraid that they would soon be targeted, and trouble would come one after another. There was absolutely no way to hide. The river was extremely cold, and the warhorses neighed in the cold. Amidst the surging sound of the water, Lin Muyu suddenly said, Xiaoxi, did you see that just now? See what? I only used one strike to break his dragon imperial spiral. Tang Xiaoxi nodded gently. I saw it. This means that you are very powerful. Hee, my Mu is the most powerful. No, I'm not asking you to praise me. I just want to say. Lin Muyu organized her thoughts and said, according to Brother Feng and Wei Chao's description, as long as a Dragon Knight uses the Dragon Imperial Spiral, he can withstand the bombardment of more than 10 magic crystal cannons without breaking it. I believe that the power of my attack just now was definitely not as powerful as 10 magic crystal cannons. Why is that? Tang Xiaoxi stared blankly for a moment, then her beautiful eyes flashed with intelligence. I know, it's just like you said, dragon crystals are the natural nemesis of magic crystals, so it doesn't consume any energy to resist the explosion of a magic crystal. It's like an iron wall resisting a gust of wind. It's immovable. But it's different to resist your attack. It needs to consume his divine power as well as the physical strength of the dragon. If that's really the case, Lin Muyu smiled. Maybe the empire can be saved. What do you mean? Xiaoxi, think about it. If a group of people randomly shot the Dragon Imperial Spiral with white diamond arrows, how long can the Dragon Knight last? We've always been too reliant on the magic crystal cannons, so much so that we feel that we need to use them against everyone. We have neglected the killing power of the white diamond arrows at close range. I think we can try. If the white diamond arrows also consume the Dragon Knight's divine power, we can probably find a way to gain the upper hand in the war. Tang Xiaoxi was very excited. That seems to be the case. Mu, you are too smart. This idea has not been tested yet. We need to wait for the next time we fight. But Linghan City, the commercial and military center of the Soaring Sky Province. It was also the place where the Marquis of Tranquil Sea, Yao Yuan, was stationed. The sun rose in the east, and after the first ray of sunlight shot out, a new day arrived. A warm breeze blew over from above the forest, and it carried the fragrance of the earth and forest. However, the guards on the city were unable to carefully experience the details of this life, and they were worried about the arrival of the group of ruthless devils from the Darkstone Empire. On the bench, Yao Yuan quietly leaned against it. His injuries were very serious, and his face was pale and extremely ugly. How is the battle? Yao Yuan asked calmly. The vice commander at the side said respectfully with a dark expression, Marquis, our army has suffered repeated defeats. The Darkstone Empire's army has continuously attacked our cities and territories, slaughtered our citizens, and they've even eaten people. All the prefectures and counties have sent us letters requesting for reinforcements. Last night, their main army has already arrived 150 kilometers east of Linghan City. Yao Yuan's expression was gloomy. Is there any other news? A group of exiled angels is helping the Blackstone Empire. It is said that they are divine emissaries sent by the Western God Realm. Divine emissaries? Yao Yuan sighed. How can the gods of the upper world participate in the war of the lower world? Do you know anything else? Yes, the leader of these exiled angels is called Xin. It is said that she stopped the Blackstone Empire's army in Dongtian Commandery from massacring a city. Xin? Yao Yuan's eyes lit up. Where are these exiled angels? It is said that they stopped at Yanming Mountain, 50 miles away. Yao Yuan sat up shakily. Put on my armor and head to Yanming Mountain immediately. I want to see Xin. Marty, please think twice. Sheen is an exiled angel from the Western divine realm. She is a demon who kills without batting an eye. Everything is just a rumor. You can't be sure. Yao Yuan's gaze was resolute. As long as there is hope, I will fight for it. Then, all right. Chapter 8:34. Most of the trees on Yanming Mountain had maple leaves. Every autumn, a large number of autumn geese from the north of the mountain would land among the maple trees, chirping endlessly, hence the name. Spring came early in the south of the mountain, and in April, Yanming Mountain was full of life. The maple trees sprouted new green or red leaves, and the birds swayed. It was a beautiful sight. Tuck, tuck, tuck. The carriage pulled by 4 war horses sped along the winding mountain road. Many parts of the road were blocked by rocks, so the carriage had to stop from time to time. The old man in the carriage kept coughing violently. Behind the carriage, a total of 8 guards dressed in dark blue and purple military uniforms followed closely. Yao Yuan did not bring many people with him on this trip. At least, it did not match his status as a marquis. Halfway up the mountain, a young girl in strange clothes descended from the sky with a low shout. She was holding a long sword with flowing light in her hand. She was wearing the clothes of a battle angel, which naturally looked strange in the eyes of the people from the shattered cauldron world. She stared with her starry eyes and said, "Who are you? Don't trespass on Yanming Mountain." The coachman hurriedly stopped the horses and opened the curtain of the carriage. Yao Yuan, who looked ill, was sitting inside. He said respectfully, "Miss, I am Marquis Jinghai of the Qin Empire, Yao Yuan. I would like to see Miss Sheen." "Marquis Jinghai?" The young girl squinted her eyes and smiled. "Don't you know that the 2 countries are at war? This is the camp of the battle angels, and the battle angels belong to the camp of the celestial pole continent. Aren't you afraid of being cut into pieces and thrown down the mountain?" Yao Yuan's body trembled slightly. "I am old, and my death is not to be regretted. However, if I can exchange my old life for the millions of lives in the Lingkong province to be saved, I will die without regrets." "Humph, is that so?" The young girl snorted and said, "You are lucky to have met me, Terralyn. Otherwise, your life might really be worthless and killed. Come with me." "Thank you, miss." Terralyn flew gently in front and led Yao Yuan's carriage forward. Not long after, another battle angel appeared. It was Luo Fei with a shield. "Terralyn, what's wrong with these people?" Luo Fei stepped on a cloud, surrounded by divine power. He looked like a god of war descending to the mortal world. He frowned and said, "Didn't I say that no strangers are allowed to go to Yanming Mountain? This is the resting and training ground of our battle angel corps. How can we allow mortals to desecrate it?" "They want to see Lord Sheen," Terralyn replied simply. "How can it be so easy for mortals to meet the gods of the upper realm? Do you think Lord Sheen is someone they can meet just because they want to?" Luo Fei raised his eyebrows. "Terralyn, aren't you being too arbitrary and bossy?" Terralyn smiled faintly. "Luo Fei, I know you're from Dora, but it's best if you don't interfere in this matter. Otherwise, you'll be asking for trouble." "That's right." Terralyn raised her long neck and shouted towards the sky above the mountain range. "Lord Sheen, Marquis of the Tranquil Sea Yao Yuan from Shattered Cauldron Realm's Ling Han City wants to see you. If you can hear him, please come to the eastern mountainside." "Terralyn." Luo Fei trembled with anger. "What do you mean by this? Are you using Lord Sheen to pressure me?" "So what?" Terralyn giggled. "Luo Fei, I told you to look for food. Have you found it yet? There are so many wild animals on Yanming Mountain. A level 6 battle angel like you should be able to hunt even one, right? Then you're really useless." "Who says I can't hunt?" Luo Fei's expression was livid. He waved his hand behind him and a huge single-horned deer appeared behind him. At this moment, the sound of space tearing came from the sky. 2 people appeared at once. With the spread of divine power, Sheen and Dora descended from the sky. "What's going on?" Dora asked. Luo Fei said, "Lord Sheen, Dora, Terralyn brought someone up the mountain without permission. I stopped her." "Who is it?" Dora's gaze fell on the carriage. "It's me." An old voice came from the carriage. After the curtain was pulled open, a servant respectfully helped Yao Yuan down the carriage. Yao Yuan didn't dare to raise his head. He bowed and said, "Chief of the Qin Empire's High Sky Province, Marquis Yao Yuan, greets Lord Xin." Xin closed his eyes and nodded. "No need to be so polite." Yao Yuan stood up and panted heavily. He looked up at Xin and Xin. When Yao Yuan's gaze fell on Xin, his body suddenly trembled violently. He knelt on the ground and stammered, "Xin? Princess Qin Yin, Princess Yin, is that you? Is it really you?" "I'm not your Princess Yin." Xin was incomparably calm. He said, "I'm Xin, a level 7 battle angel from the Western Divine Realm. My Xin, you don't have to kneel to me." "No, it must be you." Yao Yuan shook his head. Perhaps due to his emotions, tears flowed down his old face. He said, "Your Highness, do you not remember me? When you were young, this old subject once carried you, and also, on your 7th birthday, this old subject even gave you a dark steel dagger to protect yourself. Could it be that you've already forgotten about it?" "No, I'm not her." Xin's eyelashes trembled slightly. She looked up at the sky and a mist fell down. She said, "Lord Yao Yuan, why did you come to find me?" Yao Yuan looked at her in disbelief. He said, this old subject, he stammered for a long time but didn't know what to say. He suddenly knelt on the ground again and cried, "You're not Xin. You're Qin Yin. You're the Empress of our Qin Empire. You've been gone for 6 years. Do you know how we, the officials, have endured? Do you know how much Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Qin Yan, the 3 highnesses, have done for you? Now that the celestial pole continent is invading, the people are in misery and suffering. How many of your people are losing their families? Quickly come back, this old subject is begging you." As he spoke, Yao Yuan's forehead heavily knocked on the ground. Instantly, the mountain rocks broke his skin and blood flowed down. It was very bleak. A group of guards knelt in a circle. All of them were sad and angry. Why does Marquis have to humiliate himself like this? Since she doesn't admit that she's the Empress, then she probably isn't. Marquis, quickly get up. All of you, get out of my way. Yao Yuan's palm landed on the ground. Battle Qi swirled and he pushed the guards away by force. He raised his head to look at Qin Yin and said, "Your Highness, it's fine that you don't remember this old subject, but have you also forgotten this cloak?" His cloak was a little shabby and worn out, but it could be seen that he took good care of it. The golden-purple Yin flower at the hem of the cloak was so beautiful that it seemed real under the morning light. "This is the purple Yin flower that you personally rusted. Could it be that your Highness has forgotten the ancestral teachings of the kings of your family? Have you forgotten who you once were? Your brother, Lin Muyu, went through wind and water in order to help you guard this land. He suffered so much hardship and endured so much humiliation for so many years. Could it be that your Highness really has the heart to see him continue like this?" Xin opened her small mouth but didn't continue speaking. Yao Yuan clenched his teeth and said, "Your Highness, open your eyes and look at this old subject. Look at this land that belongs to you, okay?" Xin's eyelashes trembled slightly. She clenched her teeth and slowly shook her head. "No, Yao Yuan, you don't want to see me open my eyes. What do you want to do by coming here this time?" Yao Yuan's heart ached. He said, "These greedy wolves of the Blackstone Empire are cruel and ruthless. They are bloodthirsty and tyrannical. They massacred the entire Dongtian prefecture. Along the way, countless citizens of the empire died under their blades. Now that they are about to attack Linghan City, if the city falls, the millions of citizens in the city will be wiped out. Since your Highness is not willing to admit it, this old subject will not ask your Highness to help us defend Linghan City. I only ask that your Highness show mercy and save the innocent citizens in the city. After this old subject dies in battle, don't let the beasts of the Blackstone Empire massacre the city. Is that okay?" "Interesting." Dora laughed coldly and said, "Yao Yuan, we are enemies. You are begging the enemy to let you go. Do you take us for fools or have you really gone senile?" Yao Yuan was silent, his brows furrowed. Luo Fei also laughed. Old man, scram down the mountain. There is no Qin in here. There is only Sheen of the Western Divine Realm here. Scram, if you dare to spout nonsense here again, I will not let you go. A group of guards pulled out their swords and stood guard around Yao Yuan. They knew that these young men in front of them were all gods, but none of them retreated. Each of them had the courage to face death with equanimity. Just then a soft voice rang out, "Fine, I promise you." It was Sheen's voice. Dora and Luo Fei froze. Yao Yuan cupped his fists and knelt on the ground. "Then this old subject will represent the citizens of Linghan City to thank your highness Sheen." Yao Yuan stood up. Although his body was very weak, he raised his head and looked coldly at Dora and Luo Fei. He said, "That's right, we are enemies. If the Blackstone Empire's army wants to come, then come. This old man will sharpen his sword and wait for you. If you want to eat the capital of Linghan City, be careful that your teeth don't fall out." Luo Fei was silent. Dora watched as Yao Yuan's carriage left, then frowned and said, "Sheen, we can't interfere too much with the Blackstone Empire's army. At the end of the day, they are the ones fighting, and we are just helping them. If you keep interfering with the rules of the Blackstone Empire's army, I'm afraid it's not right. If we anger their Marshal Bailey Qin, it won't be a good thing for us." After saying that, Dora paused for a moment, then said meaningfully, "Bailey Qin's talent is astonishing, and he has 87 heavenly passages cultivation. Even in the entire plane, there are few who can match him. Even we. I'm afraid none of us are a match for him. I hope that you will consider carefully and not anger the God Emperor of the mortal realm. Otherwise, none of us will have a good time." "No need to say anything, Dora." Sheen turned around and closed his eyes. His face was expressionless as he said, "I know what to do, I don't need you to teach me. But you seem to have forgotten your identity as a god of the heavenly realm. Ever since you came to the mortal realm, your killing intent has become more and more intense. Don't forget your identity. You are a level 6 black-winged battle angel, not a bloodthirsty demon." "I naturally know. I don't need you to remind me. When will the Dragon Island's army be sent over?" "They are already on the way. Tomorrow morning, the Ashen Flame army will attack Linghan City. I plan to lead my 10 Dragon Knights to assist them. What do you think?" "Up to you." Sheen seemed a little tired. He sighed and said, "Terralyn, let's go back." Chapter 8:35. Bang! The huge torch rock landed on the city wall, crushing the corpses of the soldiers and leaving behind a trail of blood. Screams of agony could be heard as more than 10 soldiers were buried in the sea of fire. Below Linghan City, the sound of springs could be heard. The Black Market Empire's siege weapons were brutal and effective. The entire Linghan City's city wall was almost turned into a sea of fire. Bang, bang, bang. The mushroom cloud from the magic crystal cannons bloomed on the ground, but it was getting smaller and smaller. A giant dragon flew above the city, and a dragon knight's sharp sword disintegrated a heavy cannon. "Protect the magic crystal cannons! Protect the magic crystal cannons!" A captaincy with a face full of scars shouted. He pulled his bow and sent an arrow into the chest of an enemy below the city wall. He took a few quick steps and shouted to the people in the city, "Quick, there are too many wounded soldiers on the city wall. We need people to bring them to receive treatment. Also, we need a lot of nightmare rocks and rolling logs. Elders of Linghan City, as long as we are united, we will definitely be able to protect our home." The people in the city were furious. Many young people were already shouting, "We want to join the army." But a dragon's roar swept across the sky, and a long dragon flame attack engulfed the streets of the city. In an instant, the densely packed people were turned into ashes. Their limbs were twisted from the heat, and their bodies emitted a burnt smell. Captaincy was slightly stunned. He looked up at the Dragon Knight in the sky and roared, "Be **starred! Be **starred!" A spear pierced through his chest from behind. The Dragon Knight circling the edge of the city wall revealed a sinister smile. "You dare to be distracted in such an intense battle? You're asking for death." Just like this, the magic crystal cannons on the city that they relied on to go against their enemies were destroyed one by one, and it was equivalent to losing their final resistance. It was utterly impossible to resist the Darkstone Empire's Dragon Knights by relying on ordinary swords and sabers. Not to mention the Dragon Knights of the Tianji Empire were flying in the sky as well. The giant dragon's head slowly twisted and spewed flames into the city's sacred palace. A group of cultivators who were moving weapons and magic crystal cannons were burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. The dragon rider on the dragon's back grunted coldly and said, "Lord Gong Yangjin, as members of the Heavenly Dawn Dragon Riders, why should we help this group of barbarians from the Darkstone Empire to attack the city? Our army is fighting in the northern Heavenspan province, and here we are, helping our enemies? Humph, what a joke." Ram Jin raised his spear and stood on the dragon's back. "Don't complain. This is Battle Angel Dora's order. Don't forget what His Majesty told us. We have to listen to Lady Dora, and we have to follow her orders until the war ends. At that time, we can return to the Tianji Dragon Riders and serve His Majesty and the Marshal." "Yes. How many Shattered Cauldron Realm soldiers are left in Linghan City?" "Less than 10,000, I think. The southern barbarians of the Blackstone Empire are really powerful. They used close to 200,000 people to besiege Linghan City. That Yao Yuan should have surrendered long ago, but he led a few tens of thousands of people to fight like a cornered beast. It's a pity that these tens of thousands of lives have been wasted." "Is that so?" Ram Jin's eyes were cold. "If Yao Yuan really surrendered like the soldiers of the other cities, then I'm starting to look down on the Shattered Cauldron Realm army. From the looks of it, they're not bad. Although they're weak, their fighting spirit is still there." Yes, below the city, a black flag fluttered in the wind amidst the lingering smoke. The Blackstone Empire Army's main tent was set up 3 miles away from the city, just out of the range of the enemy's magic crystal cannons. In front of the tent, there was a spectator stand about 3 meters tall, and on it stood a few people dressed in general's armor. One of them was Fu Yu, the commander of the Ashen Flame Army, and also the commander of this attack on Linghan City. However, at this moment, the arrogant Fu Yu actually had a respectful expression as he stood with his hands by his side behind a middle-aged expert. The middle-aged expert wore a golden cloak. He was the Darkstone Empire's marshal, one of the Saint Martial gods that was renowned for being bloodthirsty and cruel, Bailey Qin. "Commander Fu Yu, you've already lost close to 30,000 people to attack a mere Linghan City. I heard that there are only 40 to 50,000 soldiers in this city." Bailey Qin's voice was very calm, but it was filled with killing intent. Fu Yu hurriedly knelt on one knee and said, "Marshal is right. I'm useless. However, the Qin Empire's magic crystal cannons are really powerful. Most of our soldiers died to the power of the magic crystal cannons." Bailey Qin laughed coldly. "If it wasn't for the help of the Black Rock Dragon Cavalry, I really doubt that you could take down Linghan City." Fu Yu's face was covered in beads of sweat. He said, "Marshal, I know I was wrong." "Is that so?" Bailey Qin lazily looked at the blazing sun in the sky and said, "By noon, I want to see the East Gate fall. I want to see the head of General Yao Yuan. Otherwise, you can give your position to the Vice General." "Yes, I will definitely do it. Men, prepare a horse." Fu Yu raised his long blade and leaped onto the back of a horse, personally supervising the battle. Just as Fu Yu was nearing the city gate, a flurry of arrows rained down from the top of the city walls. "Pai pai pa pa," sounds rang out as they collided with his god power astral shield, causing Fu Yu to feel a dull pain. Looking up, he saw a group of elite archers. They were the elite archers under Yao Yuan's command, the elite archers of the elite archers. They could draw their bows and use white diamond arrows. Their killing power was astonishing. It was also the elite archers that prevented the Blue Flame Army and even the Dragon Knights from approaching the East Gate Tower. "Bastard!" Fu Yu roared angrily. He raised his long blade and slashed out a blazing aura. However, a general on the city wall raised his long sword. With a "wung" sound, the power of heaven and earth surged, and an extremely strong frost wall appeared above the city wall. With a pung sound, Fu Yu's all-out attack was actually ineffective. Heavenly Book? Fu Yu sneered. The people from the Shattered Cauldron realm are indeed related to the Thunderblaze sect and the Heavenly Book sect. They are actually good at inscribing heavenly books. How hateful! The vice-general behind him said, "Commander, that old fellow Yao Yuan is on the East Gate Tower. Cover me. I will go and chop off his head." Yes. Fu Yu raised his battle blade and flew up. His god power pulsed, and flames engulfed his body. He roared and rushed to the top of the city gate tower. However, the city gate tower was filled with the archers of the elite archers. White diamond arrows flew out and hit Fu Yu's god power astral shield. At the same time, the surroundings were filled with Zhong Yen energy. Fu Yu knew that it was disrupting his god power. Naturally, he did not want to shatter the void. Just as Fu Yu's head appeared, a magic crystal crossbow exploded. Amidst the miserable howl, this commander who had underestimated his enemy was blown to the ground. A group of soldiers holding spears rushed forward, afraid that he would be blown to death. He is still not dead? On the city gate tower, Yao Yuan was wearing a white imperial forest armor. His face was ashen as he said, "Continue like this. Elite Bao Camp and Iron Shield Camp, hold on. As long as we defend the city gate tower, we will be able to wait for reinforcements." Marquis Tongan, Su Jiantao, is already on the way with 50,000 elites. As long as Su Jiantao, one of the 3 tiger generals of the Valiant Dragon Army, arrives, the Blackstone Empire's army will be unstoppable. Everyone said in unison, "Yes, Marquis." Su Jiantao and Yao Yuan were both part of the 5 marquises of the empire. At this time, for Yao Yuan, Su Jiantao was the only savior. The 3 tiger generals of the Longdan army camp were Wei Chou, Seducin, and Su Jiantao. In the past few years, Wei Chou and Seducin had joined hands to exterminate the demon race, proving their military talent. Now, only Su Jiantao had the title of Tiger General but had not made any achievements. However, no one would doubt Su Jiantao's commanding ability. After all, none of the generals brought up by Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, were easy to deal with. Lin Muyu dared to let Su Jiantao guard the entire Cangnan province, which was enough to prove that Su Jiantao could take charge of an area on his own. The sound of arrows being released could be heard incessantly. Although the roars of the dragons on the city wall did not stop, the city gate was still very strong. On the contrary, the guards began to use the dexterous magic crystal crossbows to fight at close range. The army of the Qin Empire actually gained the upper hand. They repelled the attacks of the strong enemies again and again, giving everyone a glimmer of hope to defend the city. In the air, the ballistae exploded. Thick and long white arrows shot into the abdomen of the dragons, injuring many dragon knights. Yao Yuan stood at the edge of the small window and looked at the decreasing number of dragon knights on the city wall. A trace of relief appeared on his face. It seemed that hope had come. The Cangnan army had suffered serious losses. After a while, they should retreat. After all, in a siege, once more than a quarter of the army was lost, the commanding general should consider giving up. This was common sense, unless the commanding general was crazy and wanted to exchange the whole army for a city. "Marquis, we're going to win," an advisor of the inner mansion said excitedly. "Yes, they will not be able to hold on for much longer." Yao Yuan also smiled. But at this moment, there was a sudden violent explosion in the air. The entire East Tower was shaking. Wood chips, bricks, and tiles fell from the sky. A monstrous divine power came from the sky with the pressure of Mount Tai. "Guards, protect the Marquis." A group of guards with swords in their hands stepped forward. But the one who came was a god with a golden shield, Luo Fei. Boom! The powerful shield strike shattered the group of guards into powder. Luo Fei had a cruel smile on his face. Suddenly, he turned around and a woman with a long spear stabbed at him. "Dora, it's you." Yao Yuan growled. "Yes, it's me. I'm here to take your life." "Ichien's order." Dora giggled. It was such a beautiful smile, but it looked like the fangs of the devil. Dugas stabbed forward with his spear. A dense divine power surrounded the surroundings, immobilizing Yao Yuan. When the spear pierced through Yao Yuan's heart, Dora rushed over before Yao Yuan died. An exquisite dagger appeared in her hand. The dagger of time. Once the dagger of time appeared, time seemed to stop. Yao Yuan could even clearly hear the sound of the dagger cutting his throat. Pft. Blood spurted out. A pair of black light wings opened behind Dora. She raised Yao Yuan's head high and shouted, "Yao Yuan is dead. Do you still want to resist?" Yao Yuan had died in battle. Now, there was one less white-robed imperial forest in Zetian Palace. Chapter 8:36. Clang! Someone's spear fell to the ground, but more soldiers from the archery unit fired their arrows and roared, "Avenge the Marquis! Kill this B***! You're courting death!" The Deg's spear danced, and a massacre unfolded. The entire East Tower exploded, and light shot into the sky. This meant that Linghan City had officially fallen. Fu Yu, who was on the ground, stared at the sky in shock. He saw Dora holding Yao Yuan's old head and smiling at him. "Lord Dora." Fu Yu immediately knelt on one knee. Buzz. Dora threw Yao Yuan's head to the ground and said, "Commander Fu Yu, this gift is for you." The bloody head rolled on the grass, and Fu Yu's face was filled with joy. "Thank you, Lord Dora, for helping us take over the city." Dora smiled. The Blackstone Empire is also a citizen of the Western Divine Realm. There's no need to be so polite. Yes. However, just as Dora finished speaking, a murderous aura suddenly descended from the sky, making it difficult for her to even breathe. It was a very familiar aura. Sheen was here. The cold blade was pressed against the back of Dora's neck. Sheen's voice was filled with coldness. "Why do you want to kill him?" "Why?" Dora suddenly smiled. The blood on her hand suddenly turned into a bloody mist and seeped into her skin. The light of the dagger of time rotated, and the surrounding time and space distorted. Before Sheen could react, Dora had already spread her black wings, and the Deg's spear turned into a bolt of lightning and pierced toward Sheen's chest. "Dora, are you crazy?" Terralin's scream came from the sky. "Poochie!" Golden blood splattered everywhere. Although Sheen dodged quickly, the Dig's spear still managed to pierce a half-centimeter deep wound on her arm. Fresh blood quickly stained her white shirt and the cape collar on her shoulders. The 50th Grotto Heaven's wave of God continued to tear at the wound. Duo LA's killing intent had been triggered. "Dora!" Sheen yelled, "Don't force me." "I didn't force you." Dora abruptly pulled back her Fergus spear and gently licked the blood on it. She became extremely bloodthirsty, and the light around her intensified. She stood there like a blazing sun. After killing so many people, Dora's strength had clearly increased significantly. This was the black-winged battle angel's strength. The more people she killed, the stronger she became. Staring coldly at Sheen, Dora calmly said, "The Lord Ruler has asked us to end the war in the lower realms as soon as possible, but you've repeatedly delayed and delayed. You can't even bear to slaughter the ants on the ground. How can you be a war angel with a personality like yours? The battle angel was born to fight, and you are just a weak and benevolent woman. How about I end your twisted godhood?" Terralyn and Lake descended from the sky and stood behind Sheen. Lake looked angry. "Dora, are you crazy? Don't forget that Sheen is the captain of the Battle Angel team. How dare you be so disobedient? No, this is the Lord Ruler's divine decree." Dora waved the dagger of time in her hand and smiled. "Anyone who obstructs me can be killed on the spot. Terralyn, Lake, you are the heirs of the major families in the divine realm. Do you want to use your lives to be buried with Sheen's ignorance and stupidity? You!" Terralyn's beautiful face twisted in anger. Sheen raised his hand and infused the astral sword with the power of the law of light. He said, "Terralyn, Lake, retreat. I want to eliminate this traitor for the Battle Angel team." Terralyn and Lake bowed respectfully, then spread their wings and flew away. Below the city walls, countless soldiers of the Blackstone Empire and the Qin Empire stared dumbfoundedly at the upcoming battle of the gods. However, most of these soldiers and generals were newly promoted. Not a single one of them could recognize Xin's appearance. It was a pity that Yao Yuan, a veteran of 3 generations, had died at Dora's hands. This was the true reason why Xin was so angry. You speak so righteously, but you have so many selfish motives. You are no longer fit to be the captain of the Battle Angel team. Dora raised the spear of Fergus and said, "In the name of the Lord Ruler, I remove you from your position as the captain of the Battle Angel team. From now on, Xin, you are officially exiled. Come, let's use this battle to solve all our problems. It is time." The corners of Shi Yin's mouth curled upwards. A smile hung on her beautiful face as boundless killing intent spread out. At this moment, she had completely unleashed her killing intent. A dazzling law spirit bead danced and trembled around her delicate body, providing the purest light elemental energy to its master. Beams of light wrapped around the stellar sword layer by layer like a tidal wave, burning the sword bright red. Just like what Vice Dean Li Fei had said, true light was something that mortals couldn't perceive. It could burn everything. Spirit Pearl of Law? Dora's expression turned cold. The burning desire in her eyes grew stronger and stronger. Her beautiful face became extremely malevolent. She laughed loudly and said, "Your divine spark is mine, Xin." Haha. Hum. The power of light turned into a sharp cone that engulfed the spear of Fergus. At the same time, time seemed to have slowed down a lot. This was the effect of the dagger of time. It used local time chaos to interfere with Xin's movements. However, what Dora did not expect was that Xin's movements were only slightly slower. Half a second later, the astral sword suddenly pierced through the wall of time. The spirit pearl of law danced wildly. Xin did not even need a second to break through the interference of the dagger of time. The astral sword that was burning red hit the stab of the spear of Fergus with a clang. Xin opened her palm, and a resplendent ice crystal instantly condensed. She hit Dora heavily. Huh! Dora's reaction was extremely fast. After a shout, the wall of time solidified in front of her. Instantly, the dragon crystal and the wall of time collided. The explosion shook the entire eastern city wall of Linghan City. The light turned into a substantial force that swept in all directions. Everyone could not help but retreat. In the air, the contrast between Xin's golden wings and Dora's black wings was so intense. Bang, 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 continuous explosions came from the sky. Gold and black entangled with each other, and the sound of divine power colliding was endless. Dora came from the barren plain of the Western Divine Realm. Since young, she had learned how to kill her opponents and survive. Her fighting style was very extreme. Her quick and fierce close-range attacks were very fierce. She even forced Xin to be unable to fight back. Traces of God's wall of time had already appeared on her arms and legs. The spear of Fergus contained the divine power of the divine realm and could easily break through God's wall of time. Coupled with Dora's ruthlessness, it was normal for Xin to show signs of weakness. Terilyn trembled as she watched. Her snow-white wings flapped gently behind her. She said loudly, "Lord Xin, don't hesitate. Kill her. The ruler and Lord Shiyen Seraphim will not blame you. Even if they blame you, we will bear the responsibility together." Lake nodded. "Yes, Lord Xin, use the eyes of the blazing light." On the contrary, Luo Fei, Dori, and a few other supporters of Dora watched in silence. They were waiting for the result. If Dora died, they would quickly pledge allegiance to Xin. If Xin died, they would also legitimately pledge allegiance to Dora. Clang! The heavy blow from the spear of Fergus was too much for Xin to bear. She crashed into the city wall, and the huge rock wall that was several meters long and wide was instantly reduced to dust. Her entire body trembled in pain. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and tiny blood-red flames lingered around each of her eyelashes. Finally, she activated the eyes of the blazing light. When she opened her eyes, it was as if the entire world had frozen. Dora snorted coldly. She tried her best to look directly into the eyes of the blazing light. However, the moment she made contact with the eyes of the blazing light, she felt as if her soul was being burned. The pain came from the depths of her heart, and it was far beyond the pain of her physical body. The stellar sword descended with the wind at an astonishing speed. The sword aura was hundreds of meters long, and it almost swept across Dora's body. Bang! Dora couldn't even block a single attack this time. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell with the spear of Fergus, landing miserably on Fu Yu's side. Fu Yu and the others had to take several steps back to avoid Xin's sword aura. Even so, many of the Blackstone Empire's soldiers had been killed. No one knew if this level 7 battle angel had done it on purpose. Everyone, get out of the way. Xin raised her left hand, and a dazzling golden ice crystal fell from the sky. Boom! The ground trembled, and the place where the Blackstone Empire's army stood turned into an abyss. Dora stood in the air with her spear in hand. Her body was covered with wounds, and she looked battered. She smiled bitterly and said, "Is talent and bloodline really that important? I can't accept this kind of fate. I will never submit. Kill me, and you will be the strongest person in the Western Divine Realm in 100 years." The strong wind blew, and Xin's cloak fluttered in the wind. She looked at Dora quietly, and suddenly disappeared. She had shattered the void, and her speed was unbelievably fast. In the next moment, the stellar sword descended from the abyss of fire. Xin planned to use this attack to split open Dora's head. As cruel as Dora was, she wanted to make her die as miserably as possible. In that instant, there was no mercy in Xin's heart. However, in the midst of the light that shattered the void, another purple light flashed. Another person had shattered the void and stood between Xin and Dora. The earth trembled, and the spiritual energy in the earth and rocks in the surroundings was instantly drawn out, forming a huge rock shield that blocked Xin's sword. Furthermore, this rock shield was strengthened by divine power and could withstand all attacks of the laws. Bang! The blade of the sword cut through the rock shield by about 20%, but it could not go any further. In front of Xin, an imposing middle-aged general appeared. The marshal's insignia on his shoulder was shining brightly. It was the marshal of the Blackstone Empire, Bailey Qin. Chapter 837. Dang! The star's sword slashed through the rock shield, making a crisp sound. Xin's body slowly spun in the air. Her left fist was filled with the power of light, and she punched the rock shield again. "Lady Xin, please reconsider," Bailey Qin shouted. He quickly added more god power to the rock shield. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to block the girl's attack. Pang! Shi Yin's fist carried an earth-shattering force as it landed on the rock shield. Cracks started to form on the rock shield. At the same time, Bailey Qin was shocked to see Duo La wail in agony as he retreated while vomiting blood. Shi Yin's attack was not aimed at him but at Duo La, who was behind him. She had cleverly channeled a portion of her strength through the rock shield to attack Duo La, who was behind him. In an instant, Bailey Qin's mind was in turmoil. He had to re-evaluate the cultivation of this level 7 golden-winged battle angel. Her understanding of the law of light had probably surpassed most of the divine kings and even god emperors in the Western Divine Realm. Even Bailey Qin, a god emperor with 87 grotto heavens, felt his soul tremble when he looked into her eyes. His aura also became chaotic. It wasn't a gaze that only humans or gods had. It was a power that was outside of the three realms. It was a mysterious power that couldn't be explained by the laws of the universe. "Get out of my way!" Xin shouted. She waved her sword with both hands. In an instant she unleashed more than 10 attacks. Finally, Bailey Qin's rock shield broke. He quickly retreated and raised his fist. His entire body was filled with a solemn aura. Even his skin seemed to have turned into stone. He suddenly stood in front of Duo La and shouted, "Endless rock wall!" Pung pung pung. Rugged rocks that were enshrouded with divine power appeared around Bailey Qin's arm. He shouted, "Master Xiyin, I apologize for offending you." The wind from the punch was extremely cold. It seemed to tear through space. The huge pressure made Xin almost unable to breathe. Emperor God Bai Li Qin's cultivation was not fake. Moreover, he was an emperor god who was close to the 90th stage of grotto heaven. Once he broke through the 90th stage, he would be able to step into the realm of a peak emperor god. The air was filled with rock god power. Along with his punch, Sheen was unable to attack anymore. He could only give up part of his attack to defend. Buzz! The dragon crystal in the sky let out a shrill cry. Bailey Chen's mighty attack landed on a resplendent dragon crystal. A shockwave spread out, and the normal soldiers who were closer to the city could not withstand the shock, and they all died with blood flowing out of their mouths and noses. Behind them, the walls of Linghan City that were already on the verge of collapse could no longer withstand the shock, and began to crumble. The great city that the Qin Empire had spent thousands of years to build was destroyed by such a light punch. Woo-woo, Sheen frowned slightly, and a stream of golden blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. The difference in their realms was too great. Even though she had the eyes of blazing light, she was still injured. Bailey Qin was extremely shocked as well. He, a dignified 87th level heavenly abode emperor, was actually beaten by this gentle and beautiful young girl to the point that his bloodline was in a mess, and he almost threw up blood. If he was really injured, it would be a head-on blow to the morale of the entire Darkstone Empire, and his invincible legend as the Marshal would be destroyed. Enough. Bailey Qin retracted his fist, and gave a military salute to Sheen from the Blackstone Empire. Their military salute was very unique. They clenched their right fist in front of their chest, and the fist was placed at their left ear. It seemed bold and unrestrained. Lord Shin, Dora is also a battle angel. She is one of the gods sent by the celestial realm. Please calm down, Lord Shin, and let Dora go this time. Can I, Bailey Qin, ask for a favor on behalf of Lord Dora? Bailey Qin's attitude was very respectful, and the soldiers and dragon knights of the Blackstone Empire behind him were dumbfounded. They could not understand why Bailey Qin was being so respectful. That angel girl with golden wings was clearly not a match for Bailey Qin. In their memories, Bailey Qin was not this kind of person. He was a famous general who could destroy an entire city with a flip of his hand. He was also a fierce general. Actually, what everyone did not know was that Bailey Qin was not being respectful to the girl in front of him, who had activated the strange eye domain. Instead, it was the woman behind her, Seraph Shiyen. The reason why Shiyen could become a seraph was because of her strength. In the entire Western Divine Realm, she was second only to Claude. Secondly, it was because of Shiyen's ruthlessness. For tens of thousands of years, those who angered Shiyen did not have a good ending. She had even destroyed a plane with her own hands. Such a woman was actually this girl's older sister, and she cared for her in every possible way. If Bailey Qin offended Sheen, not to mention his 87th Grotto Heaven Realm cultivation, even if he was at the 99th Grotto Heaven Realm, he might not have an easy time. After all, the war between the Shattered Cauldron Realm and the Celestial Pole Continent might end in a few years. As long as Shiyen and Xiao's divine pact was no longer valid, she could come to the mortal realm at any time. The moment this seraph descended to the mortal realm would most likely be the day of his death. Bailey Qin wasn't stupid. On the contrary, he was very careful and smart. A person who knew how to judge the situation was a truly smart person. Bailey Qin was like that, but Duo La wasn't. Duo La only wanted to climb up the ranks and would use any means necessary. However, she didn't know that under the influence of benefits, friends and enemies could change. Arg, Duo La's left arm was a bloody mess. She couldn't help but let out a blood-curdling scream. Sheen looked at her from afar and said coldly, "From today onwards, Duo La is no longer a member of the Battle Angel Squad. I won't restrict her from doing anything. However, if Duo La continues to be so cruel and ruthless, I will definitely kill her on behalf of the ruler and Lord Shiyen." With that, Sheen closed her eyes and turned to the group of battle angels. "If any of you want to follow Duo La, I won't force you. However, if you follow Duo La, you will voluntarily leave the Battle Angel Squad. From today onwards, if we meet again, please consider whether you are a friend or a foe." Duo La panted heavily. She looked at the people in the sky and said, "Zhou Shimin, Come here. Zhou Shimin didn't say anything. Instead, he spread his wings and flew behind Xin. He said, Duo La, I, Zhou Shimin, am a member of the Battle Angel Squad. Other than Lord Xin, I will not follow anyone else. Duo La was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Zhou Shimin was probably one of the smarter ones among the 10 members of the Battle Angel Squad. Duo La's many attempts to seduce him had failed. Even when Duo La was completely naked on Zhou Shimin's bed, he was still able to snore like thunder. This kind of man wasn't a man at all. This made Duo La feel that Zhou Shimin was definitely not normal. Perhaps he was gay like those highly civilized people in the lower realms. However, Zhou Shimin didn't think so. The moment Duo La climbed onto his bed, he felt disgusted. Zhou Shimin had grown up in the Tianxi family. He had seen all kinds of women since he was young. His upbringing was different from Luo Fei's. Luo Fei's father forbade him from getting close to women, but Zhou Shimin's father had given him an extremely good education since he was young. From the age of 15, he had played with countless beautiful two-winged angels. Therefore, Zhou Shimin didn't have any reaction at all when he met someone like Duo La. In the end, it wasn't because he had good willpower, but because he was tired of playing with women. Now that he had followed Xin to the Banished Land, then to the Shattered Cauldron Realm, he had been at Xin's beck and call, eating wild beast meat, eating wild vegetables, drinking river water, and enduring all kinds of hardships. Luo Fei. Duo La glared at Luo Fei angrily. Luo Fei slowly flew over. Although he knew that Duo La was using him, he had fallen deeper and deeper into her trap. He had already fallen in love with Duo La. He had fallen in love with this unscrupulous woman. He had fallen in love with her devilish beauty. He had fallen in love with her perfect curves. He had fallen in love with her soft panting in the middle of the night. He had fallen in love with her domineering attitude. Fall in love. Duo Li, come here too, Duo La said calmly. Yes, sister. Duo Li had long since belonged to Duo La. Xin couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Duo Li was a level 5 battle angel with 35 layers of grotto heaven cultivation. She would be an extremely powerful existence in any of the lower realms. Unfortunately, she was practically the weakest in the 10-man battle angel team. It was precisely because of this that she had chosen to submit to Duo La. Unfortunately, Duo Li had chosen the wrong path. Nothing good would come out of following Duo La. The rest of the team made their stance clear. Out of the entire 10-man battle angel team, 6 were on Xin's side. Only 2 supported Duo La. It was very simple. Everyone could see how much Seraph Shiyen favored Xin. However, Claude's care for Duo La was a private matter. Everyone could only see the 2 divine weapons, but not Claude's public protection. In the entire Western Divine Realm, although Claude was the ruler, the real army and divine power were controlled by the 2 seraphs. As long as Shiyen and Eva were willing, they could make a change and overthrow the ruler Claude. Of course, they wouldn't do that. Battle Angel Team, time to retreat. Xin faced Fuyu. His tightly shut eyes seemed to be looking at him. He was holding Yao Yuan's head in his hands. Fuyu shuddered. The scene of him being beaten by Xin until his front teeth flew out was like a nightmare that haunted his mind. His palms instantly trembled. Can you give me his severed head? Xin asked. Yes. Fu Yufei stepped forward and handed Yao Yuan's severed head to her. He asked, May I ask why? Get lost. Yes. Xin turned around and said, Terralin, help me find Yao Yuan's body. I want to bury him. Terralin flew into the ruins. In the blink of an eye, she carried Yao Yuan's headless body out. Her white royal robe was stained with blood. It was a ghastly sight. Terralin couldn't help but frown. Why are there so many wars in the human world? It would be great if there were no wars. Lake crossed his arms. Humans have always been like this. Aggressive and selfish. Xin turned around again and looked at Bailey Qin. General Bailey, can I make a request? Bailey Qin respectfully replied, No problem. As long as Lord Xin asks, I will do my best. Please rest assured. Don't massacre the city. Leave behind a complete sky province. Is that all right? Yes, Lord. Bailey Chin thought for a moment and said, "But this is a war after all, so deterring the enemy's will to fight is a must. I can give the order not to slaughter the city, but I must kill all these soldiers in Linghan City and use their heads as a sacrifice to the brave warriors of my Darkstone Empire that perished in battle. Otherwise, I'm unable to face my own subordinates." Shin frowned. "Since that is the case, can you give me 2 hours? 2 hours? Why?" Shin slowly descended and held Yao Yuan's head. "Just 2 hours. You can enter the city after 2 hours. Otherwise, you will have to step over my dead body." Bailey Chin. Chapter 838. "Lord Shin, you're making things too difficult for me." Bailey Chin held his head high and said, "As the Darkstone Empire's marshal, I can't allow my soldiers to gallop about freely and kill my enemies. If I do this, it might harm my prestige as a marshal. I hope Lord Shi'in can reconsider and understand me." "Killing is where prestige lies?" Shi'in said, "Even though I'm not well versed in the art of war, I do understand that orders must be strictly enforced. The strictness of military orders will give rise to majesty. True majesty doesn't come from killing. Killing will only bring fear." Bailey Chin was stunned. Lord Shin has really made up his mind? "Yes, it's only for 2 hours. I hope Marshal Bailey can give me this face." "Then, all right then." Bailey Chin raised his arm and shouted, "Stop for 2 hours. After 2 hours, kill your way into Linghan City." The group of captaincy all saluted. Shin spread open a pair of golden wings and slowly rose into the air. Her voice was laced with the wind as she yelled, "Soldiers and citizens of Linghan City, please leave the camp immediately and escape from Linghan City through the western gate. Go as far as you can." The soldiers on the city wall were all shocked. They didn't know where this woman came from, but they knew that she was right. There was still time to leave. Otherwise, they would suffer the same fate as Yao Yuan. Although many of the soldiers of the Qin Empire didn't fear death, dying for nothing wasn't a sacrifice for the country. Very quickly, the soldiers on the city wall and within the city quickly retreated. Although there weren't many of them left, there were still about 7,000 to 8,000 of them. If they could preserve this strength, they would be able to save some soldiers for the Linghan province. Shin just stood there in the air, closing his eyes and waiting for time to pass. Terralin, Lake, Zhou Shimin and the others all flew up and stood a few hundred meters apart. They were Shin's subordinates and would follow Shin's orders unconditionally. Therefore, they stayed here with Shin to delay the advance of the Blackstone Empire. Time ticked by. After resting for a while, Dola's injuries were basically under control. He brought Luo Fei and Duo Li to the front of the central tent and said respectfully, "Thank you, Marshal Bailey, for saving my life. Dola is unable to repay you." "There's no need to be so polite, Lord Doral." Bailey Chin smiled faintly and said, "This is nothing. As a god of the lower realm, I have always yearned for the past of the Western Divine Realm. I do not wish for 2 battle angels to fight each other." "Yes?" Dora asked, "Why is the Marshal indulging Shin so much? She's a citizen of the Western Divine Realm, yet she's obstructing the citizens of the Western Divine Realm from attacking. This is completely illogical." Bailey Chin smiled faintly and said, "Lady Shin is benevolent. After all, this city is the future city of the Blackstone Empire. She probably doesn't want to see a bloodbath." "Oomph." Dora laughed coldly. "Perhaps." 4 hours passed quickly. When all the incense had burned down, Bailey Chin smiled and said, "Can we enter the city now? Lady Shin, if you have the time, why don't you take a seat in the city? We'll clean up the place very quickly." Shin naturally understood what he meant by cleaning up the city. She politely declined and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Marshal. I'm heavily injured and will return to Yenming Mountain now." "Then farewell, lady." Shin, Terralin, and the rest slowly flew up. Meanwhile, Bailey Chin led a group of beast cavalry into the city. He looked at the civilians in the distance and said, "Kill them all." A captaincy was stunned and said, "Marshal, they're not soldiers." "What if they're militia?" Bailey Qin smiled. Captain C also smiled. He unsheathed his long sword and laughed loudly. Brothers, let's charge in. Leave no one alive. Tonight is the night of our celebration. Behind them, Linghan City was filled with cries and shouts. A few kilometers away, Xin suddenly stopped flying. Her eyelashes trembled violently as if she was about to go berserk at any moment. Xin, Terralyn said softly. Terralyn said in a gentle voice, "You're utterly unable to stop it. This is the Darkstone Empire, and they live by slaughter and brutality. You'll only be able to save a few lives, but most of the people in the city will be unable to escape this misfortune." Xin gradually calmed down. Terralyn asked again, "Xin, I have a question I've always wanted to ask you." "Speak. Why do you always side with the Shattered Cauldron realm? Is it just because you're benevolent?" "I don't know." Xin shook his head. Terralyn smiled. "Perhaps there's more to it?" Xin pondered for a long time before saying in a low voice, "Terralyn, for as long as I can remember, I've been in the Banished Lands. But after coming to the lower realms, many people say that I'm that Qin Yin. Ding Shi and Yao Yuan say the same. These days, I've been thinking about what I should do if I really am that Qin Yin." Terralyn was stunned. Qin Yin is the Empress of the Qin Empire. She's been missing for 6 years. But what if? She trembled all over, unable to control her emotions. Terralyn smiled gently, held her hand and comforted, "It's okay. Even if you're really Qin Yin, we're still friends. You have your position, and I have my position as a friend. Even if I can't help you, I won't make you my enemy. I'd rather be a person who doesn't do anything than become someone like Dora. Don't worry." She nodded, but then she thought of Shiyan's last words. "Be your true self." Could it be that Shiyan already knew that she was that Qin Yin? "In short," she said faintly, "it doesn't matter if I'm Qin Yin or not. I can't do anything that I'll regret in the future. While I'm still the captain of the Battle Angel Squad, none of you are allowed to start a war with the army of the Qin Empire. If necessary, kill Dora and Luo Fei." "Ah." Lake, Zhou Shimin, and the others were stunned. Terralyn smiled. "I can't beat Dora, but Luo Fei, it's not impossible to kill him. The power of the Nia family is not even 1/10 of our light clans. Moreover, they have more than one heir in their family. Killing him won't have much impact. This is the lower world, so it's not a big deal. But what should we do next? We can't keep running around like headless flies, can we?" "I know," Xin said. "Our 20,000 troops will arrive at Yanming Mountain in 3 days. Let's wait for them to arrive." But Shiyin fell silent again. She wanted to know who she was, and she wanted to know if she was that Qin Yin. She wanted to know what she should do if she found out. This made her feel like there was a thorn in her back. At the same time, at the western border of the Swift White Province in Lingnan, in the depths of the White Leaves Forest, on top of a square rock in the jungle, a young man sat cross-legged. His eyes were closed, and his palms were naturally placed on his legs. Streams of icy air condensed from his palms, mixed with a faint golden luster, rose up. In the blink of an eye, the surrounding trees were plated with a layer of frost, and the whole forest seemed to have entered a cold winter. He breathed gently. Every time he breathed, layers of frost dust would be blown away. There were a total of 32 layers, which was enough to prove that he was a God-King level expert of the 32nd level Grotto Heaven. Moreover, his aura was stable. His understanding of the law of frost was clearly not something an ordinary God-King could compare with. "Wu Tong!" A violent voice came from the wind. It was Fire Fist Jingjian. He came with the wind and his body was covered in flames. He said, "Oh my God, you bastard, you turned the White Leaves Forest into winter again. How many rabbits do you want to freeze to death?" Wu Tong opened his eyes and smiled. "Can't you just use your fire force to soften it? What are you yelling for? I don't know what to do with you." Zheng Jian opened his fingers and clenched them into a fist. Then he gently retracted his fist. Immediately, layers of dense flames spread out. With a low shout, the fire force immediately surged out, melting all the frozen things around him. What's going on? Wu Tong asked. Good news. Zheng Jian's face was filled with joy. He smiled and said, Heavenly Emperor Fuxi sent us a message from the sky beyond heaven. What? Wu Tong was shocked. The sky beyond heaven is hundreds of millions of miles away from the three realms. Can Heavenly Emperor Fuxi's message reach our White Leaves forest? Do you think Heavenly Emperor's cultivation is the same as ours? Let's go. Heavenly Emperor's message was sent to Scholar Ling. Come with me to take a look. I haven't seen it yet either. All right. The two of them turned into light and shot away. In a cave abode in the mountains, the elegant and handsome Scholar Ling held a long-sword embryo in his hand. His face was brimming with a confident smile as he said, Divine book, seems like it's nothing much. In just a few short years, Scholar Ling saw through the dust and actually cultivated to the god realm. It could be seen from his long breathing. Swish, swish. The two figures slid 100 meters on the grass and leaped into the cave abode. Ice Palm and Fire Fist had always been so vigorous. Scholar Ling did not even need to raise his head to know who it was. What about Heavenly Emperor Fuxi's message? Zheng Jian asked. Don't be anxious. Take a look at the wooden box. Inside is the treasure that Heavenly Emperor prepared for the two of you. Oh! Wu Tong opened the wooden box and saw a black elixir lying quietly inside. A faint fragrance came from the elixir. He asked, This is? I don't know what it is either, but this is a type of spirit medicine from an alternate world. It can promote cultivation. The two of you split it in half and eat it. It can greatly improve your cultivation. All right. Zheng Jian held up the elixir and said, Did Heavenly Emperor only bring this? Of course not. Scholar Ling smiled and said, I want the two of you to improve your cultivation so that you can go help the heir of Heavenly Emperor. He is in big trouble. Hasn't the heir returned to the empire? Humph, the two of you only know how to cultivate and forget everything else. Now that the Qin Empire is being invaded by enemies, the heir's life is in danger at any time. Then why don't we hurry? Don't rush. Eat the elixir and improve your cultivation before you go. Otherwise, the two of you won't be of much help. Scholar Ling opened his palm. Instantly, rays of golden light flashed and turned into an ancient book. He said, I still have a secret book from Heavenly Emperor Fuxi's inheritance. It is the martial arts technique that he wants us to give to the heir. The secret manual appeared to be very old and shabby. On the cover, there were 5 words written in large font, Formless Elephant Formula. What kind of technique is this? Wu Tong was shocked. I don't know either. With my cultivation, I can't understand it at all. Scholar Ling said, Also, this isn't a secret book prepared for us, so there's no need to think about it. Zheng Jian held the elixir in his hand and said, Then why don't we leave this elixir for the heir? Wouldn't it be better after he uses it? There's no need. Scholar Ling said, The heir has the disposition of a supreme being. This kind of elixir is of no use to him. He cultivates the God King Tao, which is completely different from the mortal heavenly Tao that the three of us cultivate. All right, quickly eat the elixir and start cultivating. Wake the Beeman King tomorrow morning. It's time for us to serve the heir. Yes. Chapter 839. Xiangzhou was one of the prefectures along the eastern coast of Tongtian province. Xiangzhou's main source of income was seafood, but now that the Tianji Empire had invaded, the East Sea was already under their control. Almost all fishermen who entered the sea to fish were killed or detained. Since the day the provincial capital of Xiangzhou County fell, the entire prefecture fell into a deathly silence. Everyone felt insecure and didn't even leave their homes. In the early morning fog, the sound of hooves could be heard in the forest. Black figures on warhorses galloped into the open space in the forest. The two people at the front were wearing red cloaks and white cloaks. They were the 10,000-strong cavalry led by Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu. However, they had attacked and captured 3 prefectures on their way from Dingzhou to Xiangzhou, and they had lost close to 1,000 men. Now, there were less than 9,000 of them left. Watch out, there's a scout. All of a sudden, Tang Xiaoxi looked into the distance vigilantly. With a xiao sound, a cold arrow was shot out from the bushes not far away. It was a black-armored cavalryman of the Tianji Empire. Lin Muying moved with her heart and instantly teleported several meters away. She raised her hand and with a pa sound, grabbed the arrow that was flying at high speed. She took a look and saw that the arrow had even been coated with poison and was completely black. Ah! A scream came from the forest. The black-armored cavalry was shocked. He quickly hung his bow to the side and urged his horse to gallop away. It was clear that Lin Muyu was far more powerful than him. The best choice was to run away as soon as possible after missing the target. However, how could Lin Muyu let him go? She urged Treading Snow and chased after him. Treading Snow ran very quickly and caught up to them in less than half a minute. Lin Muyu grabbed her treasured carving bow and released an arrow. Pfft. The white arrow pierced through his battle armor and went straight for his heart, killing him in one shot. He's actually a heavenly king. Lin Muyu frowned and said, the Tianji Empire is really full of talented people. Even a mere scout needs a heavenly king realm expert. Tang Xiaoxi dismounted from her horse and took off her scout's military rank. She smiled and said, he is not just a simple scout. He is a Shaoqi chaplain, a low-ranking officer with the rank of a centurion. Moreover, he has this insignia on him. It was an emblem with 2 white clouds on a dark blue background. It was very intricately made. Lin Muyu had seen this before. She had seen it on Si Kongyao. She could not help but exclaim, Tianji sect? You know him? Yes, the Tianji sect is one of the 3 great king sects of the celestial pole continent. They have as many experts as there are clouds in the sky, and their sect master, Si Kongming, is the strongest expert in the celestial pole continent. Looks like the Tianji sect has already participated in this war. Captain Si Wangyang said, Your Highness, since they've dispatched so many scouts, then it shows that they're prepared. We're less than 15 kilometers away from the Xiang Prefecture's county city, so are we going to fight or not? Fight. Lin Muyu raised her sword-like eyebrows. Since we're already here, how can we not fight? There are only 5 dragon knights in Xiang Prefecture County. Since they dare to stay and defend the city, I'll let them know the consequences of underestimating the enemy. Wang Yang was overjoyed. Then this general will order our brothers to have a good rest and attack the city in the afternoon? No. Lin Muyu raised her hand. We can't attack Xiang Prefecture County with all our forces. But Wang Yang was stunned. Lin Muyu smiled confidently. We're all cavalry, so we won't be able to gain any advantage by attacking a county city. If we attack Xiang Prefecture County by force, we'll probably lose at least half of our forces. Don't forget that they still have 20,000 elite soldiers stationed in Xiang Prefecture County. Pass down my order. Everyone is to rest and eat where they are. When it's close to noon, Wang Yang, you're to lead 1,000 men to attack Xiang Prefecture County. Take off half of your armor and pretend to be defeated soldiers who have been starving for a long time. Wait until their provisions team enters the city and plunder them. Pretend to attack for a while and then leave. Plunder as many things as you can. Don't get hung up on fighting. Yes. Wang Yang nodded, but he couldn't help but ask, Your Highness, what's the point of feigning an attack like this? I'm afraid we can't even kill a single soldier of the Tianji Empire. The art of war is deceitful. Lin Muyu said with a laugh, There is a saying in the Book of War, if you can, show what you can't. If you use, show what you can't. If you are near, show what you can't. If you are far, 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 show what you can't. If you are using advantage, lure the enemy. If you are using chaos, take it. Avoid the strong, be proud of the humble. I asked you to lead 1,000 people to rob the food because I wanted to tell them that we are short of provisions and that we are just a weak team. The defending generals of the Tianji Empire in the city will definitely be impetuous and become arrogant soldiers, eager to make contributions and get out of the city to hunt us down. You lured them into the place we set up in advance. In this way, we have no choice but to win. Wang Yang's eyes lit up. Your Highness is indeed worthy of being called a famous general. This general has learned a lot. Since that's the case, please tell me where to set up the ambush. This subordinate will follow your plan. Lin Muyu opened the map and looked at the terrain in front of her. Then she said, "It's here, the disorderly grass forest. The terrain is messy and suitable for an ambush. You take 1,000 people with you. The remaining 8,000 people will be divided into 2 groups and set up an ambush on both sides of the official road. Listen to my orders. Use the magic crystal crossbows to shoot them as soon as possible. You must kill at least 30% of their troops before their dragon knights can launch the dragon defense spiral." Wang Yang obeyed and went to make the arrangements. Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu with a smile. The morning breeze was blowing her beautiful hair. It was an indescribably beautiful scene. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Tang Xiaoxi said, "You're so handsome when you're making decisions and deciding victory from 1,000 miles away. Xiaoxi, you're about to become a love-struck fool." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She reached out to hold Tang Xiaoxi's hand and said, "This is a killing game. It has nothing to do with whether I'm handsome or not. Maybe you think I'm good-looking, but in the eyes of the opponents, I'm about to become a real demon. Since the Tianji Empire dared to stretch the battle line so far, I'm going to make them pay a heavy price. Wang Yang, go lure the enemies. You and I will arrange the ambush. After the ambush, I will try my best to open up the spiritual meridian technique to disturb the spiritual sense of the opponents. When the dragon knights arrive, we must kill 2 of them first. We'll use our strongest attack directly. You and I will act together." "Okay, I'll listen to you." A murderous intent emerged in Tang Xiaoxi's eyes. At this moment, she was no longer the Fu Guojunju or that innocent girl. Instead, she was one of the people in charge of the Qin Empire who bore the hatred of her country and family. In the evening, the sun set slowly on the hillside, and the forest started to darken. All the soldiers in the Longdan army camp had tied up their horses. Even the mouths of the horses were tied up to prevent them from making any noise. All of them had their eyes wide open, and they were holding magic crystal crossbows that were glowing faintly in their hands, waiting for the battle to begin. The Tianji Empire had defeated the main forces of the Qin Empire with great momentum and seized many prefectures and counties. In the blink of an eye, the Qin Empire had lost over 300,000 soldiers. Everyone was waiting for a hearty victory. They had never looked forward to a victory like this before. The strength of one's opponent could often make one stronger. The army of the Tianji Empire was such an opponent. Lin Muyu was lying in a pile of weeds. His eyes were calm and composed. If one looked closely, one would find that his body was glowing with a faint golden luster. The golden luster was rippling like invisible waves, but it was very weak. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to see it at all. This was the spiritual meridian barrier activated by the Supreme Personality. This barrier was like a huge spiritual power barrier, and all the auras within a few miles were protected by Lin Muyu. Even a God Realm expert riding a dragon might not be able to see through the 8,000 warriors of the Qin Empire lying in ambush on the ground. Why are they not here yet? Tang Xiaoxi was holding the nation-suppressing whip impatiently. The sky was about to turn dark. "Don't worry. They will come. Trust Wang Yang." Soon, the messy sound of horse hooves came from the end of the official road in the weeds. Before long, the golden dragon-shaped flag of the Longdan army camp could be seen on the horizon. "They're here," Lin Muyu said in a low voice. "Don't act rashly. You can only act when I say so." Everyone nodded. Do. The sound of horse hooves was very messy. When Wang Yang and the light cavalry of the Longdan army camp rushed into the weeds, everyone could clearly see that Wang Yang was already injured. His left arm was covered in blood. Many of the soldiers of the Longdan army camp who followed behind him were also injured. The number of people who returned was far less than 1,000. There were only about 200 of them, and the remaining 800 were mostly killed by the Flowing Spirit Army. So ruthless. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with anger. He slowly pulled out the Ice Origin sword. At this moment, the roar of a dragon came from the sky. A dragon knight descended from the sky, and its wings slashed a 1,000-year-old ancient tree into pieces. A ball of scorching dragon flame was spewed on the road. Dozens of cavalry of the Longdan army camp were buried in the sea of fire, and their screams were unbearable. "Wait a while more," Lin Muyu's voice was very soft. There were not enough soldiers of the Flowing Spirit Army in the forest. It was not enough for the Longdan army camp to bite them. After another 5 minutes, more than 5,000 cavalry of the Flowing Spirit Army entered the encirclement. Lin Muyu immediately raised his sword and shouted, "Attack!" Shwa 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 shwa. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp who were lying in ambush on both sides of the road all shot out their magic crystal crossbows. In an instant, more than 3,000 miniature magic crystal cannons exploded in the midst of the enemy. Beams of light shot into the sky and destroyed the enemies and their mounts. Lin Muyu's target had long since locked onto the Dragon Knight at the very front. With a wave of her Ice Origin sword, her entire body turned into a sharp arrow as she shot forward. Her long sword glowed with the light of the first appearance of stars as it slashed down heavily. The middle-aged Dragon Knight was startled. He hurriedly raised his dragon spear to block. Bang! Sparks flew. Dozens of cold waves of God directly shook his arms until they were numb. When he looked up again, Lin Muyu's blade had already condensed a bright energy that was like the sun. Ah! The Dragon Knight was startled. He was only at the 12th level of Grotto Heaven. How could he block such a powerful attack from Lin Muyu? Crack! The dragon spear was directly cut into two by the Ice Origin sword. Lin Muyu pressed down on the blade and instantly cut the Dragon Knight's head and shoulders into two. After the blade swept past, the Dragon Knight's corpse had already been burned into a pile of ashes. The red dragon that had lost its master fell to the ground after letting out a cry. A large hole was burned in its head by the purple sun. It was obvious that it would not be able to survive. Chapter 840. The Tianji Empire had conquered more than half of the Tongtian province with an unstoppable force. They had long become a proud army. How could the army stationed in Xiangzhou Prefecture have imagined that there were 8,000 elites from the Qin Empire behind a group of defeated soldiers? Moreover, the commander of this elite army was a super godly state expert. When Lin Muyu looked up, she saw the god's seal blasting open the head of a green dragon. Tang Xiaoxi's nation-suppressing whip swept through the air and almost cracked the head of the green Dragon Knight. The poor Dragon Knight was only at the Divine Heaven state. He was classified as a Saint Martial Venerable in the Celestial Pole continent, but he could not withstand a round of attacks from Tang Xiaoxi. "Shall she watch out?" Lin Muyu shouted. Tang Xiaoxi looked up and saw a Dragon Knight riding on a black dragon. He held a burning battle axe in his hand and swung it down from the sky. The battle axe created a light that was dozens of meters long, and energy splashed everywhere. This was a Saint Martial king with at least the 30th Grotto Heaven realm cultivation. He was also the strongest among the 4 Dragon Knights. Boom, boom, flames soared into the sky. Tang Xiaoxi instantly transformed into a 9-tailed demon fox. Her beautiful face became even more enchanting. She held the nation-suppressing whip in her right hand, and a book with a demonic light appeared in her left hand. It was the Ghost Tome of Death. Fear. Tang Xiaoxi opened her palm, and the pages of the Ghost Tome of Death flipped rapidly. Streaks of black spiritual energy flew out and soared into the sky like a huge whirlpool. In the blink of an eye, it surrounded the Black Dragon Knight. His Yi-Hai immediately entered a state of chaos. Thousands of ghosts were boiling, and even the speed and strength of the battle axe in his hand were reduced by at least half. The Ghost Tome of Death was originally a treasure used for support. It was demonic and domineering. The demonic energy in Tang Xiaoxi's body could be said to be the supreme of the 3 realms. Naturally, the Ghost Tome of Death was twice as effective in her hands. Let's go." Tang Xiaoxi abruptly raised her whip and locked onto the opponent's battle axe. The 9 fiery tails behind her rapidly swayed as Tang Xiaoxi forcibly dragged the martial Saint King level Dragon Knight off her dragon's back. Lin Muyu shot forward like a bolt of lightning, her long sword carrying the 5 mountains descending from the heavens' profound energy, aiming straight for her opponent's back. Dream on. This burly man's strength was formidable. His body abruptly spun, and the law of fire's divine power erupted once more. He actually managed to break free from Tang Xiaoxi's grip, and his battle axe furiously chopped towards Lin Muyu behind him. Clang! Sparks flew as the Ice Origin sword clashed with the battle axe. Lin Muyu didn't give in at all. She used 100% of her divine power to fight against her opponent. In comparison, this martial Saint King level Dragon Knight was at a disadvantage. He looked at Lin Muyu in disbelief. How could this brat who was only at the 20th Grotto Heaven realm be able to suppress him in terms of strength? Behind him, Tang Xiaoxi's attack came again. It was still the Ghost Tome of Death, Ghost Descend. Blood-red ghosts broke through the air and bound the Dragon Knight's body. He hurriedly shouted, "Black Dragon, bite her to death." Quick! The black dragon opened its bloody mouth and bit towards Tang Xiaoxi's slim waist. Tang Xiaoxi's speed was astonishingly fast. After entering the 9-tailed demon fox state, her strength was definitely no lower than the 45th Grotto Heaven realm. Her body instantly grew by nearly 10 meters. She raised her palm, and the divine array seal struck the black dragon's mouth without any obstruction. Instantly, raging flames swept out, and this poor black dragon died in the sea of fire while howling in pain. Bang! Before the Dragon Knight could turn around, his waist was already punched. It was Lin Muyu's charged attack, and the place where the punch was punched was actually glowing with a faint moonlight. B****. The Dragon Knight was already furious. He spun around and waved his battle axe, wanting to kill the 2 people in front of him. However, when he tried to raise his chi, he realized that he could no longer accumulate divine power in his chi si. His meridians seemed to have been completely crippled by the punch just now. How is this possible? He was dumbfounded. His body trembled, and a sword with a frosty cyclone pierced through his chest, piercing through his heart. This holy martial king expert died humiliatingly under the joint attacks of Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi. In the sky, there was still a young red dragon knight. He was also a holy king realm expert, and he was also an apprentice dragon knight. He could only watch helplessly as his mentor and companion were killed without being able to resist. His world had been turned upside down, and the scene before him was like a nightmare to him. After the huge dragon roared, he actually rode the huge dragon and charged into the sky. He was going to escape. The 2 divine-level experts from the Shattered Cauldron realm before him were not people he could contend against at all. Mu, don't let him get away. Tang Xiaoxi had also led troops for a long time, and she knew very well that she couldn't let him get away. This place was 20 kilometers away from Xiangzhou County. Once this Dragon Knight went back to report, they would probably not be able to launch a surprise attack on Xiangzhou County. The flames around the Ice Origin sword surged, and Lin Muyu directly threw the long sword out. Dragon Flame's spiral break. The long sword that was spinning at high speed seemed to have eyes, and it pierced through the huge dragon's neck from below. Then, it pierced through the young Dragon Knight's heart. Instantly, both the man and the dragon died on the spot, and they fell from the sky. The outcome had been decided, and what they had to do next was to quickly pacify the battlefield. Lin Muyu waved her palm, and dark clouds gathered in the sky. In the blink of an eye, a heavy rain fell, and the surroundings became unbelievably dark. Suddenly, a few resplendent ice crystals fell from the sky, sweeping across the ground and turning hundreds of flowing spirit army soldiers into a pile of minced meat. The celestial dome dragon crystals were very useful in a chaotic battle. Tang Xiaoxi transformed into a ball of raging flames and shuttled through the crowd, creating a sea of fire. In addition, the soldiers of the Longdan army camp pulled out their swords and slashed at them. In less than 5 minutes, the defense of the thousands of enemy soldiers had been broken, and they were defeated and fled. "Get on the horses!" Lin Muyu ordered loudly. "Chase after them. The flowing spirit army outside the forest are all infantry, and we are faster than them." Use the magic crystal crossbows and kill as many as you can. The thousands of people in the Longdan army camp all got on their horses and rushed out of the dense forest with the two commanders. The ground was filled with killing. The Flowing Spirit army had about 10,000 people, half of them were cavalry and the other half were infantry. The cavalry was almost completely wiped out, while the 5,000 infantry soldiers were fleeing towards Xiangzhou County like a tide. But how could their legs outrun the 4 legs of the war horses? Everyone in the Longdan army camp was filled with killing intent, and carried out a massacre as though they were cutting melons and vegetables. In the darkness of the night, among the Flowing Spirit army, a Chiliarch shouted loudly, "We can't escape, scatter! All of you scatter and run for your lives." The thousands of infantry soldiers quickly scattered and escaped in all directions. Lin Muyu rode on Snowwalker and chased at the front, and immediately ordered decisively, "The Longdan army camp must not scatter. Follow me to Xiangzhou County, that is our true objective." A group of cavalry soldiers galloped in the darkness, using their fastest speed to attack Xiangzhou County. They had to launch a surprise attack before they could react. If not, they would suffer heavy losses even if they seized Xiangzhou County. In the darkness of the night, a majestic city sat on the land of Middle-earth, Xiangzhou County. This city that had been through wars for a long time had once again ushered in an unknown number of times. On the city gate tower, a dragon rider dressed in fiery red armor was feeding a giant dragon. His fire dragon was devouring the lambs sent by the people one by one. After the Tianji Empire occupied Xiangzhou, they did not massacre the city as cruelly as the Blackstone Empire. Instead, they put up a notice to pacify the people, but there was a price. The people had to provide food for the army, and a large number of livestock to support the giant dragons, tigers, and leopards in the Flowing Spirit army. A general wearing the military rank of 5,000 soldiers smiled and said, "Sir, look, there are already torches in the distance. There are about 5,000 to 6,000 people. It seems that the troops that went out of the city to pursue and kill have returned with a full load." "Hee hee." The dragon rider smiled faintly and said with disdain, "The Qin Empire of the Shattered Cauldron Realm is simply too weak. If they could withstand a little more, we wouldn't be so bored as to herd sheep and horses every day and stay in a place like Xiangzhou where even birds don't shit. Yes, with Sir's ability, you are more suitable for attacking cities and territories. Staying in Xiangzhou is simply putting a sledgehammer to crack a nut. I really don't know what Sir Dragon Rider Su Chuan is thinking." Sir Su Chuan is the vice commander of the Tianji Dragon Rider Squad. Do not speak profanely. I don't want to hear such words a second time. Otherwise, I won't be able to keep my head. The general was so scared that his whole body was trembling. The dragon rider suddenly looked at the sky in surprise. "What's wrong, sir? Someone is coming." The dragon rider hurriedly pulled out his dragon sword and ran straight in the direction of the fire dragon. However, it was already too late. A blazing sun instantly bloomed in the sky and rapidly fell down. It was Lin Muyu's purple sun plunge. Bang! The entire south tower of Xiangzhou County was instantly razed to the ground. The dragon rider was still alive, but his left arm had been blown off. He crawled towards his dragon pathetically, but when he looked up, he realized that half of the fire dragon's body had been blown up by the opponent's fierce attack. "Who is it?" He forced himself to raise his head, only to see a man holding a sharp sword in his hand descending from the wind. Crack! His head rolled in the mess. The dragon rider, whose cultivation had not even reached the 10th level of Grotto Heaven, died in humiliation in the defense. The defending troops in the city were already in a mess. The south tower was razed to the ground, and the cavalry of the Longdan army camp rushed forward with magic crystal crossbows. Even the hastily formed spear formation of the defending troops was defeated by a few dozen magic crystal crossbows. Without the protection of the dragon rider's dragon battle spiral, the Tianji Empire's army could not resist the magic crystal weapons at all. After an entire night, the defending troops of the Flowing Spirit army in Xiangzhou County were almost wiped out, and the casualties of Lin Muyu's subordinates were not low. After this battle, the number of people had decreased from 9,000 to 6,000. After all, it was a large-scale battle, and casualties were inevitable. When dawn came, the Longdan army camp hurriedly replenished some dry rations in the city and gave up on Xiangzhou County. There was no way for them to defend the city by themselves, and the army went straight to the granary of Xiangzhou County. At noon, the 3 granaries outside the city were on fire. This was Lin Muyu's tactic, to avoid a direct confrontation with a strong enemy, and to attack when they were unprepared. Close to 300,000 soldiers of the Flowing Spirit Army had entered Tongtian province. As long as they caused trouble and burned the granaries so that they could not get any food supplies, they would be able to delay their advance. The 3 armies were based on food, and without food they could not fight a war. This was also the most fatal weakness of the Tianji Empire's expeditionary army. Chapter 841. Vine City was a city located in the mountains. Around the city walls of Vine City grew a kind of vine called Dragon's Beard. It could extend for dozens of meters, so it wrapped around the walls of Vine City. Every summer, it would bear fist-sized fruits. They tasted sour, but they could be used to fill one's stomach in times of famine. Because of this, the walls of Vine City were covered with vines, but no one cut them down. Around noon, the banners on the city gate fluttered. The flag of the Purple Yinhua Empire fell into the muddy water and was trampled by the cavalries coming and going. A flag with a red cloud symbol fluttered high in the air. Just last night, Vine City had fallen. Now, it was under the control of nearly 150,000 soldiers of the Tianji Empire. The city was surrounded by densely packed camps and tents. It was a magnificent scene. Inside the city lord's mansion, General Bai Minghuan gently placed the report on the tea table, his face a bit ugly. Looking at the generals on both sides, he said, 2 days ago, 3 prefectures in Sangzhou were attacked. Most of the rations were burned, and the attackers were all cavalry. They left immediately after the attack, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. How many times has this happened? Below him, the strategist Gong Shangming said respectfully, the 11th. Let's talk about it. What should we do? Bai Minghuan looked at the generals coldly. After a long while, no one spoke. He suddenly slammed his palm on the table and said angrily, a bunch of useless things. Speechless at the critical moment. What is the point of the Tianji Empire keeping you all? General, please calm down. Gong Shangming raised his teacup and said, this is obviously Lin Muyu's tactic of harassment. The Valiant Dragon Battalion in Tongtian province has been disbanded. Lin Muyu knows that they can't confront the main force of our Tianji Empire head-on, so he disbanded the Valiant Dragon Battalion into small forces and used their mobility to pin us down. Then he set fire to our rations. With the rations as the foundation, he will destroy our foundation. Bai Minghuan took a deep breath and said, Sir, do you have a plan? Gong Shangming smiled. I have 3 plans. Which one do you want to hear first? Tell me first. Yes. Actually, it's very simple. The Tongtian province is like a huge basin. As long as we are willing to sacrifice our military strength, we can send over 100,000 soldiers to attack the Luo River estuary stronghold. After we take over the Luo River estuary stronghold, we will be able to catch a turtle in a jar and eat up Lin Muyu's hundreds of thousands of Dragon Courage Battalion soldiers one by one. However, if we do that, we will definitely suffer heavy losses. I heard that Feng Jixing and Qin Yan have already led their troops to defend the Luo River estuary. Feng Jixing is also a famous general of the Shattered Cauldron realm. Bai Minghuan nodded and said, what about falling into the trap? Tell me. Gong Shangming clapped his hands and smiled. It's even easier. My army can ignore the safety of the 5 provinces behind us and attack Heaven Connect City with all our strength. It is said that the people there have already evacuated. After we take Heaven Connect City, we will declare that we will slaughter the whole city and cut off the heads of their guards to serve as civilians. On one hand, it will shock the Qin Empire, and on the other hand, it will chill their morale. But the disadvantage of this is that it is only a temporary plan. Once we slaughter the whole city, I am afraid that the people of the Broken Realm will be very afraid of us, and we will not be able to win the hearts of the people." Bai Minghuan frowned and said, "This plan will not work. Before I left, His Majesty had repeatedly said that to conquer the broken realm, we must first win the hearts of the people. We can lose the city, but not the hearts of the people. Let's talk about the best plan, sir." Gong Shangming's eyes flickered with a hint of fanaticism as he smiled. Lin Muyu has been on the battlefield for a long time and is well versed in the art of war. From his harassing tactics, we can see the capabilities of this unparalleled general. However, harassing tactics have their drawbacks as well. Each of Lin Muyu's troops has close to 10,000 men. They will also need to replenish their troops with rations and fodder. Therefore, we can take it slow. "What do you mean slow? Don't be hasty. Take it slow." Gong Shangming said, "The first step is to strengthen the walls and clear the fields. Close the gates of each city and send a part of the army to guard it. Without orders, no one can leave the city to fight. The second step is to take over the granaries and pastures outside the city, so that the people in the Longdan army camp can't replenish their supplies. The third step is to open up all the granaries in different places to help the poor people and win the hearts of the people. The fourth step is to send people everywhere to spread rumors that the Longdan army camp is robbing the people's food and killing countless people. We can even send our people to pretend to be the soldiers of the Longdan army camp and slaughter some small villages. This will make Lin Muyu lose the hearts of the people. Then, the 13 prefectures of the Tongtian province will be ours." Bai Minghuan's eyes brightened. He smiled and said, "Sir, you are really a wise man. No generals of the three armies can compare to you." Gong Shangming smiled faintly. A trace of loneliness flashed across his face. He said, "If it weren't for the fact that I've been sick and weak since I was a child, I would like to charge into the front line and die on the battlefield. That would be better than being a weak scholar who can only make plans and overturn the seas in this turbulent world." Bai Minghuan smiled and said, "Sir, don't worry. When the right time comes, the Western Heaven Realm will definitely send a messenger to help you open up your meridians and Qi Si with the light raw stone. Please believe me. You can definitely reach the level of a sacred warrior before you are old." "Then, thank you, Marshal. Then, what about Tongtian City? Should we fight or not?" Tongtian City is already an empty city. The Longdan army camp has already retreated. But between here and Tongtian City, there is a greedy wolf cliff. The Dingzhou Earl of the Qin Empire is guarding there with nearly 50,000 soldiers. If we want to go to Tongtian City, we must pass by Greedy Wolf Cliff. So, the Dingzhou Earl must be eliminated. "That's easy." Bai Minghuan smiled and said, "The Dingzhou Earl is just an old man. We can use gold and silver to tempt him and his subordinates to join us. Have you forgotten? Along the way, how many prefectures of the Qin Empire have surrendered? No matter how important power and position is, can it be more important than life?" Gong Shangming smiled and said, "The Dingzhou Earl is an exception. He has lived in Dingzhou for a long time and has always been very honest. Even after we entered Dingzhou City, we didn't find any of his belongings. So, this Dingzhou Earl is like an egg without a seam? No, it's very easy to deal with him. I sent people to investigate. The Earl of Dingzhou has 3 sons. One follows by his side, and the other 2 are in Dingzhou doing business. We sent people to travel through the night to capture his 2 sons to use as blackmail. He loves his 3rd son very much. As long as we capture his 3rd son, the Earl of Dingzhou's 50,000 people will be ours. But I'll leave this matter to you." "Yes." 2 days later, the Earl of Dingzhou surrendered, and the Cliff of Greedy Wolf was lost. The 30,000 troops under the command of the Earl of Dingzhou surrendered to the Tianji Empire. The remaining 20,000 troops resisted with all their might, but they were killed and scattered. The few remaining soldiers wandered into the forests. On the 19th, Lin Muyu's troops seized 9 cities in Laizhou and set fire to the rations to cut off the Tianji Empire's retreat. On the 21st, Wei Chao's troops intercepted the reinforcements of the Tianji Empire in Sangzhou and killed more than 5,000 people. On the 22nd, Sidu Sen's troops burned the city of Junzhou. On the 25th, Lin Muyu's troops attacked the main camp of the Liuji army in Shangyuan County in Dingzhou at night and killed more than 3,000 people. On the 26th, Lin Muyu and Wei Chao's troops met in Shuzhou, but they were chased by the 50,000 soldiers of the Liuji army. They were forced to take refuge at the foot of the Tianqiong Snow Mountain. By the night of the 27th, the 100,000 Longdan army camp that Lin Muyu left in Tongtian province could no longer do anything. They suffered heavy losses and were routed. On the 28th, Bai Minghuan gathered a large amount of rations and led an army of 200,000 soldiers to the Luo River estuary fortress. The battle at the Luo River estuary was very important. Once the Luo River estuary was lost, it meant that the entire Lingdong province would be exposed to the iron hooves of the Tianji Empire. It would be difficult for the empire to resist the invasion of the Tianji Empire. Late at night, a warm wind blew across Lingdong. The 4th month of the Middle-earth continent was about to pass in the blink of an eye. After entering the 5th month, the scorching hot summer was about to arrive. On the western side of the Lingkong province, the sound of war drums rose to the sky. On the ground, the densely packed army of the Blackstone Empire was shouting fanatically. Their iron spears carried rotting human heads. Behind their war horses, ropes were used to drag the conquered women of Lingdong. Battle flags were erected in great numbers. Marshal Bailey Qin's face was filled with pride as he looked at the forest in the distance. There, the war flags of the empire covered the forest. It was the army of the Zhangnan province, and the commander was the Marquis of Tsungen, Su Jiantao. Su Jiantao, that fox. The corners of Bailey Qin's mouth curled up. After hiding from us for so long, this time, he finally wants to face us head-on? Bailey Yan, do you think that we can successfully defeat them in this battle? At the side, the scholar Bailey Yan's gaze was ice-cold. Ancestor, Su Jiantao is not a simple person. We cannot underestimate him. Since he dares to fight, it means that he has made preparations. Otherwise, with his steadiness in doing things, it is impossible for him to set up such a formation to face us. Is that so? Bailey Qin smiled. Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp has already been destroyed by the Flowing Spirit army in the Tongtian province. This Qin empire is like a stray dog. What does Su Jiantao have to fight against us? Using his measly 50,000 provincial army to fight against my 300,000 strong army? Ancestor, how should we fight? Crush them head-on. Let Su Jiantao witness the might of the Blackstone Empire. Bailey Yan was silent for a few seconds. Then, let me bring 10,000 tiger leopard cavalry to flank them. Is that all right? And as you wish. Go. Deep in the night, a warm breeze blew against the dark blue flag of the empire. The war horses seemed to feel the sharpness of the tiger leopard cavalry and became restless. They snorted and stomped their hooves on the ground. Su Jiantao held a long spear in his hand and stood tall and straight on his horse. He looked into the distance. Could they win this battle? How good would it be if they were able to win? At the very least, they would be able to stop the slaughter of the Darkstone Empire and allow the commoners of the Southridge province to avoid the calamity of annihilation. After all, the Southridge province was the most fertile of the 4 great provinces in the south, and its yearly taxes were an entire 70% of the other 3 provinces. Once the Southridge province fell into enemy hands, the empire's treasury would be strapped for cash. How would they fight a war without money or food? Su Jiantao took a deep breath and said, "Let's prepare for battle." Chapter 842. The rumbling sound of war drums resounded out as the almost 100 dragon riders of the Darkstone Empire soared into the sky at practically the same time, and they formed a dense mass that was a rather magnificent sight. But as far as the soldiers of the Qin Empire were concerned, it was simply a nightmare. Vanguard, attack. Su Jiantao pointed his spear forward. Yes, Marquis. The general of the vanguard rushed to Su Jiantao, his eyes full of determination. The vanguard battalion had a total of 3,000 people, all of them were heavy cavalry with swords and blades. They held onto the purple Enin flower banner, waving their weapons as they charged into the plains, killing and soaring into the sky. Facing enemies they had never seen before, the ferocious tiger leopard cavalry and wolf cavalry, everyone in the vanguard battalion was fearless. They clashed with their opponents, causing blood to flow everywhere. Dust flew into the air. Su Jiantao's hand that was holding onto the spear was trembling, his vision became blurry. The vanguard unit had followed him for 3 years, but now he had to personally send them to their graves. In less than an hour, the 3,000 men were about to be wiped out. The vice-general couldn't bear it anymore. He gritted his teeth and said, "You can't fight like this. Do you know those brothers at the front are throwing their lives away? They are our brothers." Su Jintao's eyes were deep. He said lightly, "Left army, prepare to attack." The commander of the left army was a young captaincy. He slowly unsheathed his sword, his eyes full of killing intent. Looking at Su Jintao, he said, "Marquis, I don't ask for merits. I just want my name to appear on the nation-guarding monument after I die. Then I will have no regrets." Su Jintao's body trembled slightly. "The Empire will remember you." "Yes." The commander of the left army raised his sword and shouted. The black mass of people had already charged out of the forest and toward the enemy in the distance. The vice-general's eyes were filled with tears. "There are 8,000 men in the left army. Do you have the heart to let these 8,000 brothers die in the tiger's mouth? Marquis, this isn't your..." "Enough." Su Jintao's eyes were ice-cold. He held the reins and said, "His Highness, you ordered me to contain the Blackstone Empire's army and not let them invade North Ridge and South Ridge provinces. The Vanguard Battalion and the Left Corps brothers won't die in vain. Their deaths will make the arrogant commander of the Blackstone Empire proud and arrogant, making them embark on a path of no return." Is the Marquis so confident in the crystal cannons? It's not confidence, it's conviction. A cold light flashed in Su Jintao's eyes as he said, "The Dragon Imperial Battle Spiral can defend against magic crystal cannons coming from the sky, but it definitely can't defend against magic crystal cannons coming from underground. The Blackstone Empire's army has massacred over 1 million civilians in the Sky Province. This debt can only be repaid with blood. Pass down my order. Prepare to retreat at any time. Once they entered Songnan Avenue, prepare to strike." "Yes, understood." 2 hours later, the battle in the distance gradually subsided. The Vanguard Battalion and the Left Corps, a total of 13,000 soldiers, had all been turned into corpses. There wasn't even a single captive or injured soldier. Everyone had fought to the last moment. Moreover, the Blackstone Empire's army was cruel and ruthless by nature. They never had the habit of holding captives. "Crush these ants to death." The commander of the Blue Flame Army, Fu Yu, shouted. The earth rumbled as the dragon riders danced wildly in the sky. The beast riders and heavy-armored cavalrymen galloped across the ground. "Retreat!" The horn of retreat sounded. But just as Su Jintao and the others turned around, they heard a series of whistling sounds coming from behind them. It was the tiger leopard cavalry led by Bailey Yen. In that instant, Su Jintao felt as if his heart had been pierced by a sharp knife. He had done everything he could, but he didn't expect the enemy to have such a powerful person. "Force our way through. Kill our way through." Su Jintao raised his lance and roared as he spurred his warhorse forward. The forest was in a state of chaos. The Imperial heavy-armored cavalrymen and the tiger leopard cavalry clashed, and arrows flew everywhere. No matter how strong the tiger leopard cavalry was, they were no match for the arrows. Not to mention that Su Jintao's troops were equipped with white diamond arrows and magicite crossbows. The sounds of small magicite crossbows reverberated through the forest. Su Jintao took the lead and slaughtered his way through the valley, leading his troops to retreat. Up ahead was the main road. The legendary Songnan Avenue, an ancient road that connected the soaring Sky Province, Songnan Province, and Lanyan City. Roar, roar, roar. The dragon's roar never stopped. Balls of flames fell from the sky, burning the soldiers on the ground. Su Jintao raised his iron lance and charged forward. In the blink of an eye, he was covered in blood. The people around him were dwindling, and Su Jiantao couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. In the distance, flags were waving in the forest. Su Jiantao immediately raised his lance and shouted, "White diamond arrow boxes, aim and fire." Yes. In the forest, at least 100 arrow boxes were pointed at the sky. The next moment, when the Dragon Knight flew at a low altitude, the arrow boxes were activated. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. These steel arrows had arrowheads tempered with white diamonds. When fired at full force, they could penetrate a 1-meter-thick rock. Naturally, they could also penetrate the dragon armor. In the blink of an eye, 2 dragon knights who hadn't comprehended the dragon defense spiral fell from the sky. The giant dragon let out a mournful cry as it tumbled into the forest, smashing through countless trees. No one knew if the dragon knight was dead or alive, but it was clear that he wasn't in a good state. As for those dragon knights who had comprehended the dragon defense spiral, they were forced to retreat as the arrow boxes continued to fire. Only the heavens knew how many ambushes there were in this forest. If they continued to charge forward, once the dragon defense spiral ran out, even if they didn't die, they would be crippled. Behind them, flames soared into the sky. The Blackstone Empire's beast cavalry and heavy cavalry all charged into the ancient road to the south. In addition, even the archers and shield soldiers quickly followed, their faces filled with greed. It was as if they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to get their hands on the jewels and women if they were too late. In reality, the Blackstone Empire was such a race. The wolf tribe lived and used greed as their driving force. "Marquis, that's enough," a captaincy shouted from afar. Su Jiantao frowned. There was a dense group of pursuers behind them, and no one knew how many there were. He nodded and said, "Fire the signal cannons." With a bang, a purple mushroom cloud bloomed on the distant mountain range. This was the effect of the magic crystal cannons bombardment. This was the signal cannons. In an instant, the dozens of magic crystal cannons hidden on both sides of the ancient road to the south that had been lying in ambush were all fired. The earth trembled as the heavy cannons tore through the ground and the forest. Purple flames shot up from the ground and exploded one after another. Su Jiantao had spent a whole 5 days to bury half of the Cangnan province's magic crystal cannons here, all for this moment. Amidst the roar of the giant cannons, not only the Blackstone Empire, but also the Cangnan garrison that had not been able to escape in time. The light that burst out from the ground was not something that the Dragon Imperial battle spiral could control. They did not even have time to scream before they were smashed to pieces. The sound of explosions rang out continuously, and the entire sky was illuminated. This was a nightmare. For the armies of the Blackstone Empire, this was definitely the case. Nearly 10 li of the ancient road to Cangnan had become the range of the heavy cannons. In order to resist the hundreds of thousands of troops of the Blackstone Empire, Su Jiantao had almost sunk into a state of madness. He did not consider any costs or losses at all. Everything was for the purpose of stopping the powerful enemy. Giant trees were thrown into the air by the magic crystal cannons. The flesh and blood of people and the debris of the trees were burned to ashes, falling from the sky like black cotton. Su Jiantao and the others stood in the distance. Everyone was silent as they watched the purgatory-like battlefield. "The Cangnan Corps is finished." The deputy general's voice trembled. A captaincy held a long sword and said, "Once the fire is extinguished, immediately kill our way back." Su Jiantao nodded. "Send out a letter, order the troops lying in ambush on the 2 sides of Fort Qinling to kill their way out. Seal off the ancient road to Cangnan. I want all the people of the Blackstone Empire to die." But at this moment, suddenly there was a scream in the air, "Su Jiantao, I want you dead." It was Bailey Qin. A god emperor wanted him dead. How could Su Jiantao not die? "Protect the market." The guards all pulled out their swords. At the same time, the archers quickly pulled out their bows and shot randomly. The shield bearers held up their heavy shields. Each of their shields was embedded with a bell-absorbing rock to interfere with the ability to shatter the void. Otherwise, It was afraid that Bailey Qin would have already killed his way over. To capture the followers, first capture the leader. It was not that the people of the Blackstone Empire did not understand this principle. Get lost. Bailey Qin's fist landed on the ground. The wind from his fist was like a mountain, smashing a group of guards and soldiers into a pile of blood and flesh. As for Su Jiantao, he let out a miserable howl and was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood and actually lost consciousness. I'll take the marquis away. You guys block this beast. A guard dressed in the armor of the Imperial Guard immediately picked up Su Jiantao's body. With a twirl of the sword in his hand, the power of heaven and earth surged. The law of space's earth tome instantly sent him and Su Jiantao away from this place. In the next moment, the two of them appeared in the forest several miles away. However, the young royal guard knew that this couldn't hide from the senses of a god emperor. He hurriedly put down Su Jiantao's body and cut off a few vines to cover him. Then, he carried his steel sword and rushed far away. Su Jiantao was already unconscious and his aura was at its lowest. It was impossible for the enemy to know where he was. As long as he could lure this killing god away, Su Jiantao would be safe. A white robe sprinted in the night. In the blink of an eye, there was a strong gust of wind behind him. Bailey Qin had arrived. His domain spread out and the young royal guard couldn't move at all. Where is he? Speak. Bailey Qin reprimanded aggressively. The royal guard laughed as his young face was filled with fearlessness. The sword in his hand trembled as he held it horizontally before his neck. The great Qin Empire shall exist for eternity. A stream of boiling hot blood splashed out, and a young life was gone just like that. Bastard! Bailey Qin was so angry that his body was trembling. There was the sound of a dragon flapping its wings in the sky. It was a dragon rider general. He said respectfully, "Marshal, our army has suffered heavy losses. We can't continue to chase after them. Otherwise, we will be in danger of being annihilated." Bailey Qin looked coldly at the dead body of the royal guard and said, "Pass down my order. Retreat to Linghan City to rest." The moonlight sprinkled on the land that was dyed red by the flames of war. Many young lives ended here and many young dreams were shattered here. However, war had always been like this. It never knew what mercy was. Chapter 843. 2 days later, the news of victory flew to every corner of the Qin Empire. Su Jiantao's prestige shook the Cangnan province. He killed nearly 120,000 enemies of the Blackstone Empire in one battle, and deployed a large number of troops at the Qinling Mountains and the fortress of the Ancient Road, guarding the two main roads, forcing the strong enemies of the Blackstone Empire to rest in Linghan City. This battle was equivalent to giving the Blackstone Empire a head-on blow. Moreover, the news of victory came after the death of the Marquis of Tranquil Sea, Yao Yuan, and the loss of the Lingkong province. The significance of this victory was incomparably far-reaching. Good. That's great. In the hall of the Luo River Estuary Fortress, Feng Jixing tightly grasped the letter and read it word by word again. After confirming that this was really Su Jiantao's handwritten letter, he repeatedly applauded. He knew that the war in Lingnan was endless. Su Jiantao's courageous battle not only temporarily stabilized the situation in Lingnan, but also gave the overall defeated imperial army a shot of reassurance. Qin Yan also laughed. Su Jiantao is indeed worthy of being the 3 tiger generals of the Longdan army camp that Big Brother brought up. From now on, his name will probably be known by everyone. Zheng Yifan squinted his eyes and smiled. Marquis Cangnan's victory report is certainly gratifying, but don't forget that there are 200,000 enemies of the Tianji Empire gathered in the north of the fortress. How should we deal with them? Feng Jixing pondered. Yes, how should we deal with them? Su Jiantao's battle strategy is the magic crystal cannon array that Yu Tianji used. If we use it as a reference, I'm afraid we won't succeed. Although Bailey Qin is an emperor god, he is indecisive and doesn't listen to advice. It's reasonable for him to fall into the trap. But Bai Minghuan is different. Gong Shangming can be said to be the best strategist in the celestial pole continent, and Bai Minghuan can be said to listen to Gong Shangming's words. As long as they advance step by step, we will be in a very passive position. Xing Yifan nodded his head without saying a word. Xiang Yu frowned and cupped his fists. Your Highness Prince Exin, Your Highness Prince Zhong, I request to leave with the troops. Feng Jixing was stunned. Where is Master Yu going? Xiang Yu muttered. After the Blackstone Empire suffered a crushing defeat in Songnan province, it is likely that they will definitely seek revenge. Moreover, the Mingshan province that this subordinate is defending is to the west of Lingkong province. Bailey Qin may move against Mingshan province at any time, and Shangyang City only has a paltry garrison of less than 10,000 soldiers. It is impossible for them to defend. Thus, this subordinate wishes to lead the 70,000 soldiers under me to travel 1,000 li to reinforce Mingshan province. Feng Jixing furrowed his brows and said, We'll discuss this matter later. After our army suffered a crushing defeat at the Blue Wind Sea battle, we already don't have many soldiers left. Now that Duke Yu has taken 70,000 soldiers with him, I'm afraid that there will only be less than 200,000 soldiers left on this steel wall. It's impossible for us to defend against the same number of soldiers from the Tianji Empire. Xiang Yu lowered his head and did not speak again. At this moment, the messenger outside made an urgent report. Princess Shi has arrived. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Xiaoxi appeared in the hall in a red dress. Princess Shi. Qin Yan was overjoyed. How's the situation over at Big Brother's side? Tang Xiaoxi frowned slightly and said, Not good, we've been chased one after another. Mu and Wei Chao's combined forces are less than 10,000 soldiers. I'm afraid that Situ Sen and Situ Shui's forces aren't any better. The entire Longdan army camp has almost been torn apart. Mu asked me to come back and exchange information at any time. If the Luohiku stronghold goes to war, he can coordinate from the inside and the outside. With 10,000 soldiers in the Longdan army camp, they can at least cause a small impact on the Tianji Empire's forces. Where is you now? Feng Jixing asked. The northern mountain corner of Heaven's Vault Snow Mountain. Feng Jixing took a deep breath. It's already not bad that you was able to delay the Tianji Empire's 300,000 soldiers in Tongtian province for an entire half a month. Oh right, we've received the latest news. Count Dingzhou has already headed north with 30,000 soldiers. Count Dingzhou has surrendered? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. She bit her red lips and said, That old man is really a piece of such asterisk tea. Feng Jixing smiled bitterly. There's nothing we can do. The enemy is strong while we're weak. The Tianji Empire has come with the momentum of a whale swallowing everything. Tongtian province's various provinces and prefectures have been lost one after another. The morale of the army is already in chaos. Fortunately, the morale of the soldiers guarding the steel walls hasn't fallen. Tang Xiaoxi said, I've patrolled when I came. The Imperial Army Camp and Divine Might Camp are in good order. Fortunately, you guys are here. Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh. These 50,000 Imperial Army soldiers are my old brothers who have fought with me for many years. Naturally, they're very elite. Since you're here, Princess Shi, there's something I need you to do. Oh, what is it? Go to Winterfrost City and dispatch Ling Hu Yan's 200,000 Demon Clan soldiers to assist us in battle. Feng Jixing was afraid of offending her and explained, there are only 200,000 soldiers of the Empire inside the steel walls. Xiang Yu's 70,000 men may need to be sent to reinforce the battle in Lingnan, so there are less than 200,000 soldiers who can actually fight inside the steel walls. The Demon Clan army isn't directly under my or Yan's command. Only you can dispatch them. Yes, I understand. Tang Xiaoxi waved her hand. Someone, serve tea. I'll go dispatch the troops after I have a sip. Thank you, Princess Shi. To the north of Winterfrost City, the Demon Clan's main camp stretched for dozens of miles. Close to 200,000 Demon Clan soldiers had been stationed in Winterfrost City for a long time. However, all the Demon Clan generals above the rank of captaincy only listened to Ling Hu Yan, and Ling Hu Yan only listened to Tang Xiaoxi's orders. In the central tent, The incense from the western regions was burning in the incense burner, and the smell was extremely fresh. Tang Jin, who had a goatee, held a military book in his hand and muttered something. He had always been a general guarding the western regions, but he hadn't experienced many battles. Therefore, in terms of commanding troops and formations, he was much inferior to Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, and even Wei Chou and Su Jiantao. But it was also because of this that Tang Jin had never given up on learning and growing. Beside him, Ling Huyen, who was wearing a light red dress, poured him a cup of tea. Then she came behind Tang Jin and massaged his sore shoulders. She said, "Drink some heart-nourishing tea. It's good for your heart. Drink more, and you won't often have heart cramps." "Yes, thank you, madam." Tang Jin shook Ling Huyan's hand and said with a smile, "I really don't know how many lifetimes I've been blessed to have such a virtuous and beautiful wife like you." Ling Huyan chuckled and said, "You're getting old, but your mouth is getting sweeter and sweeter. You humph, if I'm not around, you'll definitely learn bad things after hanging out with people like Situ Sen and Wei Chou for too long." Tang Jin held his beloved wife in his arms and said with a smile, I won't. Tang Jin, am very content. With such a good wife like you, I have nothing else to ask for in this life." "All right, hurry up and drink the heart-nourishing tea. Don't let Her Highness reign and Her Highness she worry about your health. After we defeat the eastern barbarians, the door to the western regions still needs you, the general, to guard it." "Okay, I'll drink it." Tang Jin picked up the teacup with a smile and drank it in one gulp, causing Ling Huyen to giggle. As time passed, Tang Jin grew older. The two of them looked like an old couple, but what had never changed was their mutual help and respect for each other. Just as Tang Jin had said, when a woman walked into a man's world, she might really be the only one in the world, and he would not ask for anything else. "Oh, so loving?" A familiar laughter came from outside the tent. Tang Jin and Ling Huyen looked at each other and smiled. They turned around and bowed respectfully together. "Greetings, Princess She/Her Highness She. Rise." Tang Xiaoxi walked into the central tent and said, "Ling Huyen, immediately gather all the generals, quickly break camp and set off. Follow me to reinforce the steel protective wall in the Luo River estuary area. We're about to start a direct battle with the Tianji Empire's Liuji Corps." "Yes, Her Highness She, I'll do it right away." Ling Huyen flew out of the tent. Only Tang Xiaoxi and Tang Jin were left in the tent. "Tang Jin, how are you?" Tang Xiaoxi asked. "Thank you for your concern, Princess Shi. I'm very well." Tang Jin smiled and said, "It's just an occasional relapse, but it's nothing serious." Tang Xiaoxi said faintly, "There are not many people left in the Tang clan. General Tang Jin, you must take care of yourself. Your illness is a chronic disease that won't be cured even after a long time. I've already sent people to visit famous doctors. We'll definitely find a cure." "Thank you, Princess Shi." "Pass down the order. The National Garrison Army and the Demon Clan Army will set off together. The biggest battle between the Empire and the Tianji Empire will start at the Steel Protective Wall. That's what we want, and so does the Tianji Empire." Winter Frost City was not far from the Luo River estuary fortress. It took half a day to ride and a day to walk. The next day, the mighty demon race army and the 50,000 kingdom guarding army arrived at the southern part of the fortress. Looking from afar, the steel protective wall was like an impenetrable fortress in the fertile land. This protective wall cost nearly 200 million Jinin coins. It was originally built by Wei Chou to defend against the demon race, but today, it had become an impenetrable fortress for the empire to defend against the enemy. The affairs of the world were impermanent, and no one could guess how many opportunities would be brought about by each event. From afar, a group of cavalry galloped over. It was Feng Jixing leading the imperial guards out of the fortress to welcome them. "Thank you for your hard work, Princess Shi." Seeing the arrival of the 250,000 troops, Feng Jixing felt more confident. "You're welcome." Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. "We're just working for the empire." "Oh yes, when I came here, I saw many horse tracks and marching traces in the southwest." "What happened?" "It's Xiang Yu." Feng Jixing pondered for a moment and said, Xiang Yu insisted on defending Mingshan province. Last night, he broke camp and left with 70,000 troops from Mingshan province. You can't force it? Mingshan province and Shangyang city are his lair. Once Mingshan province is lost, Xiang Yu will no longer be Duke of Nan in name and reputation. I can understand him a little. Yes, Lingnan does need more troops anyway. Although Su Jiantao achieved a great victory, it doesn't mean he can really wipe out the enemy army in Lingnan. Yes, let's enter the city. Is there any movement from the Flowing Spirit army? Not yet. They're constantly mobilizing rations and supplies. They're probably trying to attack the steel protective wall. We'll see. Chapter 844. The afterglow of the setting sun dragged the outline of the steel wall longer and longer, and finally shone on the camp of the Flowing Spirit army in the distance. The camp was filled with the sounds of soldiers training and horses neighing. The war was imminent, and the 200,000 people of the Flowing Spirit army were already rubbing their fists. Inside the central tent, a group of high-ranking generals sat on two sides, sipping tea from the broken cauldron world. The hot steam lingered, and the fragrance filled the air. Bai Minghuan sat on the commander's seat and said, Our food and supplies will be ready soon. What do you think we should do for the next battle? A deputy general smiled and said, Wherever our army goes, the Qin Empire's army is already frightened, and the Qin Empire's army is already like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow. Once the general's attack drums finish, we will be able to break through the steel wall and sweep across the entire Qin Empire. Another middle-aged general also smiled and said, That's right. The Tianji Dragon Riders and Tianji Beast Riders are unparalleled, and with the general's personal command, we will definitely sweep across the broken cauldron world and bring this great land into our Tianji Empire's territory. The other generals and strategists also praised. Only Gong Shangming remained silent, sipping his tea and smiling without saying a word. Why don't you say anything, sir? Bai Minghuan asked. Gong Shangming chuckled. I see that all the generals here are so confident and determined to win. I keep feeling that the hundreds of thousands of soldiers behind the Qin Empire's steel walls are as weak as clay chickens and pottery dogs. Since that's the case, there's no use for me as a military advisor. I'll just let all the generals defeat Feng Jixing's army with your saliva. The group of generals all had rather awkward expressions. Gong Shangming's short words were like a fiery slap to their faces. Sir, why do you have to bother with them? Bai Minghuan smiled and said, Sir, please tell me how you plan to attack the Luo River estuary fortress. Gong Shangming muttered to himself, Marshal, the Luo River estuary stronghold is personally commanded by the Qin Empire's Prince Exin, Feng Jixing. From what I know, Feng Jixing is a commander-in-chief who is well-versed in both civil and military affairs. Together with Lin Muyu, they are known as the Empire's twin paragons. They have achieved unparalleled achievements in many battles in Daojiang, Lingnan, and other places. Moreover, Feng Jixing excels in defensive battles and battles on plains. His ability in battle formations is especially outstanding, far from what his naval battle prowess can compare to. If we underestimate our enemy and think that Feng Jixing will not be able to withstand a single blow, then we might end up suffering the same as the Blackstone Empire. Mr. Gong, don't be an alarmist. An old general scolded loudly, You are speaking so eloquently here. Don't you know that you are disturbing the army's morale? According to military law, you should have been dragged out and beheaded long ago. Gong Shangming waved his sleeves and said lightly, Then, Marshal, please push me out and behead me. Use my head as a sacrifice for the three armies. Sir, don't say such angry words. General Liu is just being frank. I hope that you won't take it to his level. Bai Minghuan tried to smooth things over. At this moment, we have received the Emperor's grace. I hope that we can all unite and look at the big picture. It was not that Bai Minghuan did not know that Gong Shangming was a strategist, but he was also a very proud person. Ever since he was young, he had been looked down upon by his peers. He had suffered a lot, and had developed this kind of confrontational personality. He could not tolerate any criticism from others. But Bai Minghuan also knew that in this expedition, they would rely on the army, but they would have to rely on Gong Xiangming's intelligence. This was also what the emperor had told him before he left. Gong Xiangming cupped his hands and said, "Marshal is right. From what I can see, the Luo River Estuary Fortress has 50,000 elite imperial guards and godly might battalion. Yesterday, another 200,000 demon army and 50,000 state army came in. Adding the original army, they have a total of 400,000 soldiers in the Luo River Estuary Fortress, which is twice as many as us. Moreover, the Luo River Estuary Fortress is a fortification of steel walls. They have at least set up thousands of magic crystal cannons there. Marshal, you have seen how powerful the magic crystal cannons are. Once our Dragon Knight battle formation is destroyed, we will suffer heavy losses. Also, in terms of battle formations, Feng Jixing is well versed in the Qingquan battle formation and the virtual reality battle formation, while there are few people in our army who are well versed in battle formations. If we do not have a proper battle formation, how can we fight against them? Are we just going to rely on the Dragon Knights and Tiger Leopard Knights to charge?" As he said this, Gong Xiangming smiled lightly and said, "I'm afraid that many of our generals still think that they are invincible. There are not many troops stationed in the sky-reaching province, and the armies in all the prefectures are just a motley crew. So far, we have not even fought against the official army of the Qin Empire, and we have only won by sneak attacks all the way. How dare you be so complacent? I feel a little sad for you." The group of generals blushed, but no one could refute him. Just as Gong Xiangming had said, the Flowing Spirit Army had never fought against the real main army of the Qin Empire. Even in the Longdan army camp, they had only fought in small groups. Bai Minghuan pondered and did not say anything. Gong Xiangming continued, "Before my army came to the Shattered Cauldron realm, I had studied the Qin Empire's army from various sources. In terms of strategies, King Qin, Lin Muyu, is the best. However, in terms of setting up a formation to face the enemy and charging at them, I'm afraid that the best general in the Qin Empire is Feng Jixing. If Feng Jixing is not eliminated, it will be very difficult for our army to gain any advantage in a battle." "What do you mean, sir?" Bai Minghuan asked lightly. A trace of coldness flashed through Gong Xiangming's eyes. He put down the teacup and said, "The Flowing Spirit Army is only one of the 4 armies of the Qin Empire. We have come from afar, and we are tired. In my opinion, it is the best choice to use the least amount of power to kill the biggest enemy. Although Feng Jixing has a caste immortal personality, his cultivation is only at the 17th heavenly realm. If you want to kill him, why don't you bring a few dragon riders to the Luo River Estuary Fortress in disguise and find a chance to kill Feng Jixing? As long as Feng Jixing is dead, the situation will be settled. Lin Muyu cannot change the situation by herself." "Assassinate Feng Jixing?" Bai Minghuan pondered and said, "He is just a Saint Martial Venerable. Even if he has a caste immortal personality, his power is limited. I can do it by myself." Su Chuan hurriedly made a fist salute and said, "You can't do anything rashly. You are the commander of the 3 armies, so you should protect them. Leave this to me and Lord Lei Wen." "No, I'll go with you. This time, we're going to the Luo River Estuary, and we'll definitely take Feng Jixing's head before we return." "Then, all right." Su Chuan made a fist salute and smiled. "I never thought that this Feng Jixing would be so powerful. He is just a divine venerable, and yet he needs a Saint Martial God and 2 Saint Martial Kings to kill him." Gong Xiangming said, "General, most of the food in the Luo River Estuary Fortress comes from Winter Frost City. Also, the meat and vegetables that the soldiers need are all from the towns and fields under Winter Frost City's jurisdiction. In order not to alert the enemy, you can bring 2 dragon riders to disguise as vegetable farmers and enter the fortress with those vegetable farmers. Only do it when it is time to do it." Lei Wen was dazed. "Do we really have to disguise as vegetable farmers?" Gong Xiangming's voice did not allow for any disagreement. Bai Minghuan smiled slightly and said, "Sir is the military counselor, so we will listen to everything you say." As he said that, Bai Minghuan stood up, took off his sword, and held it in front of Gong Xiangming with both hands. He said, "After I leave, please take charge of all military affairs until I come back. All generals, listen to the military counselor's words. Otherwise, the military counselor will have the right to kill first and report later." A group of generals nodded in agreement. Before the sun had completely set, there was an endless stream of people in the south of the Luo River estuary fortress. Many merchants and civilians were pushing carts and carts to the direction of the steel wall. After all, it was far from enough for the 400,000 soldiers to be transported by Winter Frost City. Therefore, Feng Jixing had issued an order to set up a market in the south of the steel wall. The civilians and merchants would send supplies, and the military would send people to buy them. This made this place look very prosperous. In the forest, 3 miserable groans disappeared in the wind. Soon, 3 strong men wearing simple vegetable farmers' clothes walked out, each carrying a pole. They were Bai Minghuan, Su Chuan, and Lei Wen, and they had lowered their aura to the extreme, so that it was hard for others to sense their God-state aura. "Marshal, why are we wasting so much time and effort?" Lei Wen grumbled in a somewhat resentful tone. Bai Minghuan smiled lightly. "The military counselor must have his reasons for this arrangement. Do you think I don't want to come down from the sky and kill Feng Jixing? But don't underestimate the cultivators from the Shattered Cauldron realm. It is said that they have a very strong heavenly Dao cultivator named Chu Chu, and there is also a degenerate Ouyang Yen from the East Heaven realm. They are both very powerful people. Once we try to assassinate them, we may fail." "I understand. Let's go before it gets dark." The 3 of them went around the market, passed the inspection at the gate, and entered the fortress. The sound of iron hooves could be heard everywhere in the fortress, and the training ground was full of dust. There were thousands of soldiers practicing battle formations in every training ground, either holding spears or shields, all of them in high spirits. The changes in battle formations were so mysterious that Bai Minghuan was secretly shocked. Gong Xiangming was right. This Feng Jixing's military talent was probably second to none in the entire celestial pole continent. "Hey, what are you looking at? What are you doing?" A group of cavalry galloped over from the distance, led by a man with a saber. It was Zhang Wei. "Sir, we are local vegetable farmers," Su Chuan said with a local accent. "We picked some vegetables and came into the city to exchange for some copper coins to feed our families." "Oh." Zhang Wei frowned and said, "It just so happens that the general's mansion's kitchen needs some help to cut vegetables. Are you guys fast?" "Fast, of course," Su Chuan said hurriedly. Su Chuan hurriedly said, "The few of us are henpecked at home. Usually, the meals for a family of more than 10 people are cooked by us." "Then let's go." Zhang Wei held his saber and smiled. 2 silver coins a day. Don't think it's too little. If it weren't for the fact that most of our people have been sent to the barracks, we wouldn't have come to you." "Thank you, sir, for the food." Su Chuan's bowing made Bai Minghuan a bit dumbfounded. This guy didn't look like a dragon rider at all. He looked more like a wanderer. Chapter 845. Zhang Wei was a weak man, so he naturally didn't know how to tell the truth from the lies. That was why he didn't even know when he brought 3 Saint Martial gods and Saint Martial kings into the general's mansion. The general's mansion was simple, but it was the command center of the entire Luo River estuary fortress. Not only Feng Jixing, but all the captaincy-level generals of all the major armies also dined in the general's mansion. People came and went, but the security was tight. However, this kind of security was useless to Bai Minghuan and the others. These mortals couldn't sense the presence of gods at all, and the kitchen was some distance away from the military hall. So even Chu Chu, Tang Xiaoxi, and Ouyang Yen couldn't sense the 3 god-level warriors entering the general's mansion's backyard. Busy until late at night, Su Chuan and Lei Wen's hands were sore from cutting vegetables. It was rare for them to use their hands to kill people to cut vegetables, and Bai Minghuan, a general and a prince-level royal, couldn't escape. The 3 of them cut carrots in the middle of the night, feeling that this kind of life was no longer fun. You three sleep in the woodshed tonight. It's quite warm with grass. Don't light a fire, or you'll be in big trouble if you start a fire. A 10-man squad leader of the Department of Spirit Medicine scolded loudly. Yes, sir. Su Chuan nodded and asked with a smile, then will we get our pay today? His acting skills were quite good. The 10-man squad leader couldn't help but have a look of disdain. What a bunch of greedy guys. Here, these 6 Jinyin coins are your pay. Tomorrow, you have to get up before dawn to wash the rice. Go to sleep. Thank you, sir. With a squeak, the door of the woodshed closed. Su Chuan and Lei Wen stood on both sides of the door. Sensing that the people of the Department of Spirit Fire had gone far away, Su Chuan said, General, when do we start? No rush. Bai Minghuan narrowed his eyes. I can sense a few god power fluctuations in the general's mansion's backyard, but they are too weak. You two control your breath, don't expose yourselves. Sir, looks like... Bai Minghuan clenched his fists and smiled. Looks like Feng Jixing, Tang Xiaoxi, and Ouyang Yan are not sleeping together, and Chu Chu is sleeping far away. Of course not. Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan are Lin Muyu's women. Lei Wen said. Oh really? I didn't expect Qin Empress Lin Muyu to be so cunning. No wonder she couldn't improve her cultivation. Someone who was sleeping at the foot of the Heaven's Vault Snow Mountain, couldn't help but sneeze. He didn't get the blessing, but instead got the blame. It was simply too miserable. As the night deepened, the entire residence fell into silence. Swoosh, 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 3 shadows flashed in the wind. Bai Minghuan, Su Chuan, and Lei Wen took out their weapons from their portal bags and aimed at a small yard deep in the backyard. There was an aura there that contained the god power of wind, fire, and thunder. To be able to understand these 3 laws, one had to have a 3rd-level divine spark or above. Obviously, it was Feng Jixing. Puff, puff. With 2 clear sounds, the 2 soldiers in the yard fell down with blood spurting out of their necks. They didn't even have time to cry out. Kill. Bai Minghuan growled. With a sweep of his long saber, the god power directly broke the door open. Boom. With a loud explosion, the whole room was shattered by Bai Minghuan's blade power. The blade chi went straight to the few rooms in the back. Screams could be heard everywhere, and no one knew who was the one who suffered. Lei Wen narrowed his eyes. Bai Minghuan chuckled. In the golden dust, a man stood in the wind, holding a saber with both hands. It was Feng Jixing. He didn't even take off his armor when he was sleeping. He was wearing a soft armor, but there was a horrifying wound on his chest. He had been wounded by Bai Minghuan's attack. It's rare for General Tianji to come. Why don't you go through the front door? Feng Jixing smiled coldly. Bai Minghuan smiled as well. It's the same no matter which door. We're all here for business. Are you going to die yourself, or do we have to do it? If you want my, Feng Jixing's, head, you guys better do it yourselves. The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up slightly. Divine power gushed out and the purple electric flame wolf martial spirit circled around his body. Streaks of lightning and flames howled unceasingly, turning everything in the surroundings into dust. He knew how strong the opponent in front of him was. Even before he made a move, he had already raised his power to the peak. If he didn't do this, he might not have the chance to make a move. Clang. The long saber sank into the ground. Bai Minghuan clenched his fists and smiled. Su Chuan, Lei Wen, you two guard me. I will kill him myself. Don't let anyone disturb us. Yes. The 2 dragon knights raised their power together. Come on. Bai Minghuan turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed out. His left palm swept out, and a blood-red wave of air appeared. It was his famous skill, the Scarlet Palm Art, which was said to have the power to destroy everything. Feng Jixing didn't dare to be careless. His 2 sabers swept out, creating 3 storms in a row, which meant that he had used the sky-swallowing demon blade 3 times. The sound of thunder and the sound of the wind mixed together, and the 3 blade storms collided with the heavenly skull palm, forming a shockwave that even pushed down the walls of the courtyard. Bai Minghuan let out a low roar, and his 5 fingers tore apart the storm like an eagle's claw. The edge of the palm wind swept across Feng Jixing's abdomen, and immediately, the diamond body protection on the surface of Feng Jixing's body started to crumble. Wah! Feng Jixing spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. He had never expected this God Emperor-level expert to be so strong. His palm wind was actually able to destroy his vigorous battling Vajra divine power. You can die now. Bai Minghuan laughed, and the scarlet palm art came down again. Feng Jixing's body sank as he held the Crimson Phoenix and Azure Dragon sabers horizontally in front of his chest. With a roar, he activated the Vajra body protection 8th Heaven's divine power to protect himself. He was actually taking the initiative to defend. Boom! The space was distorted by the scarlet palm art. Strands of destructive power cut through Feng Jixing's arms and chest like blades, tearing the armor in front of his chest and arms into pieces. There were even small cuts on his arms. If it weren't for the diamond body protection, his arms would have been destroyed. But it was also the power of this attack that sent Feng Jixing flying back 100 meters. He bounced up and turned into a golden stream of light that appeared in the air. He raised his two sabers and slashed down with a roar. The 9th style of the windwalking saber technique, Demon Slash. Good move. Bai Minghuan's face was full of excitement. It was rare to see a Saint Martial Venerable in front of him with such power. Such an opponent was really rare. His two palms unleashed a power that could devour the heavens. The sky-piercing palm was like a pair of palms that could tear apart the sky. It actually forcefully pushed aside the countless dimensional slashes that Feng Jixing had unleashed. The disparity in strength left Feng Jixing with no chance at all. Come down. Bai Minghuan put his palms together and turned them into a powerful suction force that pulled Feng Jixing down. He raised his hand again, and a violent force landed right on Feng Jixing's chest. Boom! Feng Jixing no longer made a sound. His entire body fell into the distance like a withered leaf. Even his aura had disappeared. The Crimson Phoenix and Azure Dragon sabers landed in the rubble and bounced off. Feng Jixing, you died just like that? You're too weak, huh? Bai Minghuan laughed out loud. In the night sky, two balls of flames came at the same time. It was Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan. Kill them together. Bai Minghuan's murderous intent rose, and the scarlet palm art went straight for Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi had already turned into a 9-tailed demon fox. Her sharp claws swept out, clashing with the scarlet palm art several times. Sparks flew everywhere. Tang Xiaoxi had the demon power to protect her, and her power was much stronger than Feng Jixing's. She blocked 5 attacks from Bai Minghuan, and still did not fall into a disadvantage. Her palm was filled with the power of the ghost book, and the ghost power of the fear and terror pages rushed out. Bai Minghuan could not help but be stunned. It was said that Tang Xiaoxi only had the cultivation of 20 grotto heavens, but right now, every attack of Tang Xiaoxi's was more than 40 grotto heavens. Even the burning of the flames made Bai Minghuan's palm hurt a little. Choo-choo, say Feng Jixing. Tang Xiaoxi used her divine power to flip the ghost book, and shouted into the air. With a roar, Choo-choo, who was wearing a white robe, landed in the rubble. Looking at Feng Jixing, who was covered in blood, he could not help but frown. He hurriedly put his palm on Feng Jixing's chest, and felt a chill in his heart. Feng Jixing's heart meridian had been shattered. Looking at his pupils, the light was slowly fading away. Choo-choo gritted his teeth, feeling unspeakably uncomfortable. Was one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yen going to be gone? He could not wait and he could not think too much. With a low roar, he put both palms on Feng Jixing's chest, and the divine power in his body rushed in, protecting the last bit of his heart meridian for Feng Jixing. If his heart stopped beating completely, then there would be nothing he could do. Right at this moment, Ouyang Yan's light snort sounded from the distance. She was simultaneously attacked by Su Chuan and Lei Wen, these 2 dragon riders, and had already suffered internal injuries. However, those 2 weren't much better off either, as their faces were burnt black. But the one who was in the most danger was Tang Xiaoxi. The Heaven Scarlet Palm was powerful and overbearing. If it was a frontal attack, few warriors at the same level could be a match for it. Not to mention that Tang Xiaoxi's cultivation was several levels lower than Bai Minghuan's. She had already used up too much of her divine and demon power, and in the blink of an eye, she was at a disadvantage. She was hit by Bai Minghuan's 3 consecutive palm strikes, and even the ghost book in her hand was showing signs of dissipating. Russell, Russell? Bai Minghuan walked step by step towards Tang Xiaoxi and said with a smile, I heard that you are Lin Muyu's woman. If I kill you, I wonder if Lin Muyu will be heartbroken? If Lin Muyu loses her mind, then it will be even easier for her to be killed. Ha! The Heaven Scarlet Palm power inside Tang Xiaoxi's body was in a mess. She looked up at her opponent, but she could not summon any power. At this time, a few figures appeared in the sky, and one of them had a fist covered in flames. He said, Did you hear that? That big guy said that woman is the successor's woman. Should we save her or not? Of course. Another warrior with a palm covered in ice said hurriedly, Once his woman is killed, he will be too sad, and it will affect his cultivation. I will go first, and you can substitute. Scholar Ling, use the heavenly book of ice law to save the other woman. She is also a great beauty. Scholar Ling growled, Beam King go. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.